It's that sacred time of the week again. It's Hivemind Wednesday. This is episode 8. We're getting very close to the end of season 2, actually. Another champion will be crowned, and another one in the running for an unreal amount of money.
Just happy to be on a real game show with actual viewers instead of the dog shit I was doing yesterday, Charlie. I just got to tell you, couldn't be happier to be in the seat with you once again. And as always, look, I got a couple things they make me read here. You guys can co-stream it if you use the Hivemind extension, and you can join the Discord, discord.hivemindshow.tv. I think we're still running the contest on Discord for art, and there's been a lot of amazing art. So if you guys are artists, join up and show off your art.
The art's been wild so far.
Yeah, it's been insane. And we have a few words we're not accepting. Ludwig, moistcr1tikal, Charlie, come fisting your mom. Anything against terms of service. And the last word from Twitch was a little less swearing. So sorry, Jeff Bezos, for all the fricks. And you know, we'll keep it level-headed. We can be clean. We can be PG, Charlie.
Oh, absolutely. I even wrote a children's book once called "The Man Who Forgot How to Poop." So,
right, and it was PG.
Up until the very last word, I put in shit.
You gotta teach him early. All right, it's gonna come up in life.
It was tasteful.
Tasteful shit. I love to hear that. Either way, we got a great show because, well, Charlie, actually, I convinced a lot of these guests to come on. So let's introduce them. Let's say hi to them.
Hey.
And
what up?
Let's go around, starting with the first. What old Atrioc? How's it going there?
It's going well.
Thanks for the laugh, Stanz. I appreciate that.
That's why I love a good Atrioc old joke.
Getting a laugh for just saying the word old 2 years later means a lot. How you doing, big man?
I'm doing well.
You've watched this game show, surely. As a good friend of mine, you probably watch every Wednesday night with the fiance.
Yeah. Yep.
So you know how it works.
Rules, and I know them well.
And you are looking for a dub today?
I'm not looking for an L.
Hey.
Amen.
Love to hear that. And we also got C9's very own Emiru. How's it going?
Hi, going good.
What about you? How are you feeling about your chances on this show?
Well, I've gotten about 3 hours of sleep in the past 48 hours, so I think I'm confident.
Why?
I think it's gonna go great.
Wait, why? How? Why?
Studying for the show, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Studying all the Twitch antics.
Well, lucky for you, you are competing against 3 dipshits. Speaking of one of them, Staniel.
Hey, dipshit checking in.
How's it going? This is back-to-back game shows for you today.
It's back-to-back game shows. It's a big day for me.
It's more like
not because of this.
Back-to-back months of game shows.
Yeah, because I'm on the Twitch Atlas. I made it. I'm a big streamer now.
You are. Oh, you're on the Twitch Atlas?
Yeah, I was on the first month because you hosted me one random day, and then I lost it. It's been a bad feeling.
Let's go on the Twitch Atlas, and that was your own doing. And
it was all wrong.
Also the creators of Taskmaster. You know the big
please
two.
don't say that out loud.
All right, yeah, keeping that on the down low. And finally, we have. Are you still Minecrafter this month, Connor?
I am technically, but it's like the circle is like closer to you now. Which
Really?
they still made me green, but I was like, I guess I'm escaping hell.
I got out of there. I'm out.
Get in there.
I'm over next to Charlie.
Yeah.
Were you a crafter before? Atrioc?
Me or Atrioc?
You said I'm out.
I was over
Oh,
next
you
to
mean
you.
of my circle?
I was next to Ludwig,
you're
and I was
out of
like,
Ludwig's
get me the hell out of here. So I got over next to Charlie.
You made a whole stink about how you're getting further away from me, and then the
Yeah, and
next
then you
month you're
sucked me
back in
back
my
in.
circle.
You
No, I did
sucked
it on
me back
purpose.
in with
I
the
sucked you back in.
subathon, yeah.
I was
Dude,
in your
I'll take
Discord
the Ludwig
every
circle.
night, DMing people. I
Ludwig's
was like,
circle
come to my
is
stream.
nice, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll
compared
take
to the
that.
other
You
circles,
get one
this
raid
is
from
very...
Tommy in it. You're stuck in the Minecraft circle for 6 months.
I got a good circle.
True.
But either way, these are our contestants, and they're battling for 100 gifted plus the chance to make it to the season finale. Which is happening. It's like in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's coming right around the corner, actually. This is episode 8.
Yeah.
8 weeks of season 2 already.
Yeah, it's on its way out. I will say, Connor is a returning contestant. He's also the top point scorer ever in the history of Hivemind. No one has ever scored a better individual week. He was on season 1 and he lost. This is the redemption arc. All right, he rockied it.
He lost.
He fucked the pooch and he lost terribly.
Hold on.
I'm
wait
sorry,
a minute.
how did
you
you
remember?
fuck the pooch?
I would like
Charlie-
to clarify.
You remember how terribly he lost, right, Charlie?
Yeah, it was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. Of course.
I consider myself undefeated actually because I played two full games that I won. The only time I lost was a championship round. It was a bonus round. In terms of full games, I'm undefeated.
It sounds like Tom Brady in 07.
Not a close read.
I'm the Tom Brady of Hivemind.
If you exclude the Super Bowl, I'm goated. Well, either way, we got a quick break. You guys can talk to your chat, and we'll come back with our first agree, disagree, and our round 1 cues. Be right back.
Go with Survivor.
Like you just survive over everyone?
I have a lot of skills that I think would be good for Survivor, so.
I'm not doubting you. Could you just name a couple skills you have?
I can start like fires with sticks.
I was just about to ask that.
Can you?
You can start a fire with a stick. Just sticks.
I mean, he throws knives for fun, so.
Wait, you throw knives
What?
for fun?
Yeah.
Yes, like actual like knife throwing. It's,
All right.
It's a lot of fun.
We're back, and we're ready to get round 1 rolling. We left you with an agree or disagree question. We're going to start with you, Atrioc. Where do you land here? Ramen better than sushi? What do you think?
That's a hard agree.
You disgust me. That's one of the most sickening things I've ever heard. Jesus Christ.
Unless Jiro Dreams of Sushi's fucking making it, then I want the ramen. It's going to fill me up and taste good. You're ordering like dollar store sushi and calling it good. It's not good.
You're calling him Jiro, so who's really in the wrong here, okay? Emiru, what about you?
Tough also. I think I'm gonna go with disagree.
That's what I like to hear.
Respectable.
The right answer.
Actually,
Very good.
classy, almost. Tasteful. Smart.
Almost.
I didn't get it.
Stanz, what about you?
I hate the show. I'm so stressed out. This is impossible. There's no way to know. I'm gonna agree. I know,
Yeah.
I hate ramen, but I don't know what to do. I see Atrioc do it, and he's a true leader.
You're vegan, bro.
Stan,
You
it's
eat
the
bugs
first question
on the
for
weekends.
bonus points. And you're
I'm gonna
already
vomit.
sweating.
Connor, what about you?
I'm gonna agree.
Wow.
Oh boy. Oh my god.
Look,
Let's
that
go,
was mean
Connor.
when I said 3 dipshits. Let's see what Twitch chat said, because that's what matters. If it's agree, you guys get the 100 bonus points. If not, Emiru, you're the winner.
I knew.
Not even close.
This is
man.
just
Not
weebs
close.
in chat living out fantasies after watching Naruto in
Explain
Ichiraku
that.
Ramen Shop.
Yeah, you're all
So
wrong.
true.
Ramen sucks.
So
Wouldn't
true.
sushi be more weeb than ramen?
Yeah, sushi would be more weeb.
No,
No.
Naruto chows down on ramen after like every filler arc.
You're the
ever.
weeb then, Charlie. You're the
I didn't argue. I mean, I'm fine with that.
Charlie is a
American
self-described weeb, I will say. All right, guys. Well, let's go over quickly how this works. We're going to ask you guys a question, and then if you get the number 1 answer, you can take a look at the point breakdown. You will get 100 points in round 1. Points decrease if you get a lower scoring answer. All the answers are controlled by chat. You can look at someone else's chat. You can tell your chat to spam something. You can do whatever you want, really. But that's how the game's going to work. In our first question, Charlie, take it away.
Question number 1. Which OG streamer got you into Twitch? 60 seconds with your chat. This sounds more like a survey question. I like that.
Yeah,
Wild.
this is for Twitch. They need this.
Yeah.
Who's yours? Do you have anyone? Or are you just a YouTuber and you're like this? Oh, you do?
No, I actually was streaming on here when it was Justin TV in 2010. I was playing World at War as Nazi zombies.
Oh my god.
Yep,
And
but I dropped it.
And so, wait, who's your OG streamer that got you in?
4-player podcast from Justin TV. They also used to have Angry Video Game Nerd on repeat, so I used to watch that a lot too.
That's OG, because people in my chat are literally saying Ludwig as if I'm an OG streamer. My OG streamer would be like...
It's gotta be Siglimic, right?
It actually might be Siglemic, Narcissa, or Retro Gaijin. Because I used to watch a lot of Smash 4, and he played it. And he had a decent Mario. Oh, you know who it actually
put
is?
it on the map.
Do you know J-Tails?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
look, I'm talking about
I used to watch
actual
J-Tails videos so I could beat my friends in Smash 4.
Oh, it's so wholesome. Did it work? Did you?
Oh,
beat
yeah.
them?
I stomped them. They were trash after that.
Good shit.
And now I can't think of a single friend that beats me in any Smash games. Anyway, guys, hopefully you had a good minute to think there. Now, the way the game works is if you go first, you got an advantage. We're going to start first with Big A. And which OG streamer got you into Twitch?
Well, you said OG, so I thought way back to the earliest days of Twitch, the Among Us era. Okay, that's where it all started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I picked Soda Poppin', the pioneer. Okay?
Of Among Us.
big.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he was the pioneer, I suppose, of English
No,
Among Us.
He was. So
Well, yeah, sure.
confirm it. Don't say it in that tone. Just confirm it.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
No tone
Let's
necessary.
see.
Just lock it in.
Where is it on the board? Probably low. Soda. Oh!
Twitch was nothing without Among Us and Soda Pop.
Yeah, that's
true.
where it all began. That's where it all began.
Hey, good job, man.
It is going to be a sad legacy if that is what he's remembered for. Is the one Among Us stream before he quit it forever. Emiru, what about you?
I'm gonna go for Shroud. Mr. Shroud.
Yeah. Shroudy Rowdy. Sure, his gaming skills brought many. Let's take a look. Shroud, you're watching this. Can we please play games sometimes? Maybe like an
They
hour?
paid $53,000 for it. God, please.
Number 4. All right. Good answer. Got some points there. Catching up. Staniel.
Yeah, I'm gonna say someone I watched when I was first watching, Lyric.
Okay.
Ooh, is that too
That's
old?
cool, 'cause
Twitch
we
has
have-
Zoomers.
A different version of Lyric on the show here today. How's it going, Connor? Heard that once or twice. Lyric,
good
let's
one.
see. Is it on the board? I like how Stress Stanz is out on the first question of round 1.
Big money on this. Wish I'll need it.
Smaller stakes. Connor, you're last up. What do you think?
Stanz took my answer. I was gonna say Lyric.
Someone else you could mention.
You're not an OG.
OG. Wow. And Zoomer yourself.
Back in the day.
Ludwig probably would have been number 1 if it wasn't a banned word, let's be honest. Before Ludwig, Twitch was a fucking shithole. So.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Ninja.
Ooh.
Okay, yeah. That's so funny because I don't think of him as OG, but he's been around for like
has
literally
been
a
around.
I just
decade.
know people would say his name.
Ninja, let's see, is he on the board?
Big ninja.
Wow.
Wow, 1
Easy
through
clap.
4.
Yeah, that's a perfect round. You guys see the pictures of Ninja at the red carpet event?
Yeah, he's good looking.
It was-
yeah.
Which one, bro? He's been in a ton.
He was at the red carpet event for Free Guy, and it was so jarring seeing him because he's a gamer in a crowd of like actors who have pounds of makeup and look like just like insanely gorgeous.
You
And then this
saying he looked
ninja with his
terrible?
blue hair.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was like
To
the
the
ghost
ninja?
white.
What are you trying to say about
Yeah,
this?
I'm trying to
Damn,
say
dude.
next to
I
Ryan
thought he
Reynolds,
looked
he looked
good.
I'm gonna
terrible.
TMZ your ass one of these days.
He already
Yeah,
took his
bro.
record. What more do you need?
Yeah, I know. Fucking spit on his
okay,
grave,
now
bro.
You're making me feel bad. You're making me feel bad. Let's take a look at what we missed. Number 6, Summit,
Okay.
and number 5,
Shrek.
Okay. Is XUC OG?
No.
No shot, right? All right. There's too many Zoomers on Twitch. End of question 1. There's 4 questions for this whole round. Emiru, you're going to go first this time. This question from a viewer. Proper Fish. Charlie, take it away.
What does your grandmother's home smell like? So 60 seconds. Think of old Nana's home.
Yeah. Weed. She smokes the dankest kush.
Are you being serious right now?
No.
Okay.
No, God, no. But that'd be funny, though.
I can see that, though. I can really see that.
For sure. Like, they're using, like, old people weed. They got, like, CBD oil and stuff, too.
Yeah. What is it like? They also have the not DMZ. What is that, like, old people rub that they put on their knees and shit? It's like DM something.
Oh, yeah. Like Tiger Balm or whatever that is.
Yeah, that weird shit.
Let's do a quick listen-in with Atrioc, see what he's thinking for this, because pretty much just asking what his wife's
death
house
and
smells
cookies. My grandmother's home doesn't have a distinctive smell. I guess like candles.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch over to Emiru for the final 10.
Cookies. I submit.
Cookies. People like cookies.
Yeah, that's very wholesome.
I'm just thinking of the SpongeBob grandma's cookies.
No, we're good. We're good, chat.
Time is up. 1 minute to think, and hopefully you came up with a good answer. And we're going to start this time with you, Emiru. What does your grandma's home smell like?
Cookies.
Cookies. Does your grandma just bake fire cookies?
Yes.
My grandma, admittedly, dog shit cook. Right?
Damn.
She's Swedish. She can't understand a lick of this.
Don't put Mima on blast like that.
I'm putting Mima on blast right now. Cookies. Let's take a look. This could be a good one. Catch you up to almost first.
Big.
Number 2. Good answer. Nice job there. Emiru, stands over to you.
Yeah, I was going to say cookies are baking, but it's taken, so I'm going to say old people.
Oh, the very distinct elderly smell.
It is a
Roasted.
distinct smell.
Straightforward.
Yeah, sure. Let's take a look. Old people. Wow. What
an obvious answer.
Hey,
Jack,
Why did you type
your
like
grandma? What do you want?
What does your grandma's house smell like, grandma?
Wait a minute. I've been robbed. I've been robbed clean.
That is so stupid.
How were you robbed, Connor?
I said grandma. My answer immediately when I heard the end of the question, I was like, it smells like grandma.
Do you think grandma is substantially different than old people?
Absolutely. It's his own answer. I want to see the separate. If they separate those, where that stands.
Yeah.
I think they're probably the same, but you're surely going to get third here, Connor. What do you think?
You don't want to answer what my chat's spamming.
Really mull it over here.
Let's see.
2 seconds
Your time,
remaining.
Connor.
3 seconds remaining.
I got 2 answers. But I gotta pick one. So
1 second
I'm gonna
remaining
say
now.
lavender.
Oh,
refined.
That's a good answer, dude.
Hey, Shark, don't make that face. He's doing his best.
What face did you make?
I
incredulous.
Yes,
No,
because
I saw
Atrioc is
something
literally
off the
doing
screen.
this. Atrioc goes,
totally.
I saw something else off the screen.
and doesn't smell any lavender. All right, let's take a look.
Nate Chuck are so upset. They're the number 1 answer.
I'm not upset. I'm happy for you.
I didn't get number 1 answer. I didn't go first.
Let's just take a look.
Oh,
Is
you are the number
lavender
1 answer.
on the board?
Oh. And you eat pants with your nice lavender guess, Connor.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to start trying now.
Oh no.
you don't want to awaken that demon
takes the
here.
shirt off.
Connor's gonna go wild.
Yeah, Connor
upset.
is the top point earner ever, and it's actually not close.
It's not close at all. Connor has an absolute stranglehold on this number 1 spot.
Big A.
Death.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, what the? It's a family show. It's just
She's
sponsored
only
by
60,
Twitch.
dude.
Please. All right.
I'm going off the chat.
I'm sorry
She's
you guys have
fine.
to hear this, chat.
She's lovely. And don't
Let's
apologize
just see
on my
if
behalf.
this is obviously not going to be on the board because this is psychopathic death.
Okay.
Come on. Tasteless.
Crazy. He pinked it.
You told your chat to do that. There was some shenanigans involved.
No shot.
Let's see what Connor whiffed on. Number 6. Dust. Number 5. Candles. Number 4. Oh, true. Old people do love smoking. All right. After 2 rounds, it's a pretty tight battle for first between Atrioc and Stanz, and second between Emiru and Connor. Let's get to our third question, Charlie.
What's the most well-known Easter egg in gaming? 60 seconds with your chat. Go wild.
Most well-known Easter egg. I mean, this is obvious, right? It's the Capcom code.
Konami code, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess it's not obvious then.
I immediately went to Halo 2 Golden Warthog.
Wait, I don't even know that. What is that?
What? Yeah, it's not really an Easter egg. It's more of a myth. It was like if you shoot rockets at a sign on a specific map, you spawn a Golden Warthog, but it wasn't true. I don't think that would count.
You know what's one? For me, I don't know if other people feel this. In The Sims, if you typed motherload into the console, they'd give you 20,000 free, and you could spam it.
Isn't that just a cheat code?
Is that different? I guess it is.
Yeah,
it is different.
I feel like Easter egg would be more like in Halo 3, where they have that GIF or that picture of a Bungie employee in a towel floating.
So, like in Ocarina of Time, you can see the Mario paintings.
Yeah, that would probably be.
That's
like
an Easter egg.
For.
So the Konami code technically isn't an Easter egg, then, really, is it?
No, it's more just like a full cheat code, I think.
Yeah. We'll see how our producers figure this out. This is going to be a little bit of deliberation from our producers on what technically is an Easter egg. So we're going to take a second here. Stanz, you will be first to go. You're in the lead. Right. You could extend this.
Wait, are they going to remove things that aren't Easter eggs?
Well, like, some things are Easter eggs, some things are cheat codes. You know, it can be...
Wait, so should I not guess a cheat code?
You can guess it, and then they'll be in my ear, and they'll be like, man, he's dumb. And I'll be like, and I'll convey that to
you. Oh, so I shouldn't... If I skip a cheat code, Connor goes and takes the cheat code and gets it, I'm going
You say the cheat code.
Okay,
say the cheat code. We're going to test
my answer. That's my answer.
Your answer is the Konami code?
Postal.
Okay. I'm going to go postal.
I think the Konami code is more than a cheat code because it's oftentimes an Easter egg in other games, right?
True. Popular culture.
I agree.
Yeah. Even on Twitch. Do you remember that? To be able to customize your dashboard, you had to put in the Konami code.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let you do it normally.
You had to have the
weird
stream preview on and stuff.
That was so cool.
Let's take a look. Konami code. Is it on the board? Surely just 100 for Staniel. Big points.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's par for the course.
Stands I know and love. Connor, over to you.
Yeah, I was gonna go with that.
Connor every round.
Where's my answer?
I was gonna go with that.
You can check. I'm gonna go with. Got like 2, I think. I'm gonna go with the cake is a lie.
Fuck. Oh, classic Portal.
Hey, good answer. Connor.
That was big on Reddit too for a long time.
Reddit
so the
did like
Redditors
that
might be here.
Dude, Reddit gets obsessed with stuff.
Oh,
Reddit still does hold my ex, I'm going in. Which is 15 years old at this point. Yeah. All right, let's take a look. Cake is a lie. Is it on the board?
I got it.
All right. Nailed 1 and 2. Number 3 just begging for it, Atrioc.
Hey, man,
You know I love Minecraft. You know I love Minecraft. Me and Connor talk about Minecraft all the time.
Well,
And that's why I'm saying Hero Brine.
I want to be clear.
Oh,
I told
that's
everybody
tough.
not to vote for this because I believe in the integrity of Hivemind, and Minecraft is not fair.
I'm going to ask you real quick, Big A. I'm actually unfamiliar. What is a hero bride?
Oh, let me tell you, it is one of the most mysterious secrets in all of gaming. It would take me a while to even get into it. No, it's like, you know, the blocks. It's under the blocks even.
Oh, Jesus. We don't go under those blocks. You don't want
it
see
goes
that.
deep, and let's not get too deep into it because it's kind of scary for the audience.
It's like Y2K. If we talk about it, maybe the
not
whole
boomer
entire
thing,
game
not a boomer
crashes.
thing. It's much cooler than that. So
Right. All right, Hero Brian, let's see. Is it on the board?
This man is nutty. All those hours spent in Minecraft paying off.
crafted
I'm going to
and
get
mining.
shit for this being a Minecraft answer, even though there are 0 crafters on this show. With the
Crafting
exception
and
of
mining,
Connor, according
baby.
to One Atlas.
Oh,
Well,
One
we got
Atlas
one
that's
for
wrong.
sure.
Emiru, over to you. What do you think? This is really hard on you.
God.
They made top 3 away.
Okay, I'm just gonna trust my chat. Mount Chiliad GTA 5.
Mount Chili?
Oh,
I don't know that.
that's a good one.
What is that?
That's like an OG one. It's it's like a mountain or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
You sound like
Or
Atrioc.
some shit, yeah.
It's underneath the
Yeah,
mountain.
I feel bad for making fun of Atrioc.
Well
on
said,
Hero Brine.
Charlie. No, well said. That was a good explanation.
All right. So Mount Chile, is that it?
Chiliad, I think.
Chiliad. Mount Chiliad, GTA 5.
Add.
Yeah, you got it.
Mount Chiliad. I'm getting there. Mount Chiliad, is it on the board?
Ooh.
I thought that was going to nail.
Taken.
Hey, yeah, that was
Yeah, it's a tough
your
round.
hardest round. When you're the last to go and they take the top 3, that's the hardest round. Let's see what you missed real quick. Number 6, Mew.
It's not easy.
Oh, okay, yeah. Number
Like
5,
Pokemon Red, where you like go into the car or some shit.
Push
that's
the
not-
truck,
yeah.
you know? My uncle was
Hot
a Nintendo.
Coffee.
Hot Coffee was
yeah.
GTA 5
GTA.
sex mod or whatever.
What is
Atrioc has spent a lot of time in the hot coffee
A
mod.
lot of my formative years.
And number 4,
Oh,
zombies.
dang.
Is that an Easter egg?
There's
every
Easter eggs in, like,
map
every-
has an Easter egg in it.
Okay.
At the end of round 1, let's take a look at our score lineup. A pretty...
Whoa.
Oh, wait, is there another question still?
Yeah, we got
Oh
another
my
question,
God.
big guy.
Oh my God, there's another queue. All right,
Now let's just move on, you know?
It's like so many more rounds. All right, let's take a look. Question 4. My bad, Charlie. What is it?
All good. Having one of these in your house will impress a date. So 60 seconds. Get after it.
Okay, there's a real answer for this, and this is mostly for fellas. If you got tampons in your house or any female care, and I did not learn that for myself. I know it's a Chad thing because Hassan said it.
Oh, that's good advice.
Yeah.
That sounds like lying, though. Like, you could just go buy lingerie and just, like, hide it somewhere. So if you bring a date home, they're like, oh, this guy clearly has sex because there's
No, it's less to
lingerie
have sex,
here.
and it's more like sometimes women might forget, and it's like cover. It's not like, oh, I have these because I fuck.
Oh, I see. Oh, so it's like a courtesy thing. Like
Yeah, it's like a courtesy
communal
thing.
tampons.
It's
Yeah.
like what they would have in a regular, like a nice public restroom.
Okay, so like moist towelettes and tampons.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes more
tampons,
sense.
a bidet, and Ludwig merch. Yeah, that's the big 3 chat. That definitely shouts. I don't have sex, but you'll have a fun time of the day.
What RTX 3090?
Time is up, contestants. Our final question of round 1, and Connor, your answers have been stolen a lot, but now they
Yeah.
can't because they're going to be our first to go.
This one's a little bit more difficult. I feel like there's pretty broad answers.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with a bed frame.
speak on that. Do you not think that's like standard?
Some don't. Listen, I've met a lot of streamers, and not everybody lives up to standard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
For me,
not
it just
for
sounds like you
streamers.
said doorknob. Like, if you had a doorknob, that would be impressive.
Well, doorknobs are more. You kind of have to have that. Like, you can't have a door without a doorknob usually.
Uh-huh. Do you have a bed frame?
I do. I'm renting one actually.
Yeah, Connor pulls.
Impressive. Dude, no.
Of course, I got a bed frame.
I went to Connor's house, and he did zero effort to clean up the house
that wasn't my
beforehand.
house. That doesn't count. I was Miska's house that I was
the
in for
room
3
to
months.
his stream setup in his bedroom. There are it's like a hoarder, but only cups and bottles from fast food spots. 2 of his childhood friends come over. They're both girls, and they're like, "Hey, can we see your room?" And he's like, "Nah." They later open it. He did nothing. They just saw it. He just let him see it.
That's not true. I said, you don't want to go see it. And they're like, no, we do want to go see it. It should be fine. And I let them see it. And they were like, oh, I see why you didn't want to let us see
It was either the most Chad thing or the most degenerate thing
That
I've
wasn't even
ever
the worst
seen.
part
They never
of them
spoke
being
to
in
him
Austin.
again.
The worst part was them meeting Miskiff.
I guess if you're going to meet Mizkif, all roads aren't going to be as bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Is it on the board? Bed frame.
Yeah.
I'm pretty shocked. I'm not gonna lie.
That's
Why?
shocking.
Okay. Emiru and Stanz, why are you guys nodding your head like, yeah?
Because
Why are you-
I was spamming bed frame. I had all my bots spamming bed frame. I was ready for bed frame.
Emiru, what about you?
I've seen too many people with just a mattress on the floor. So I mean, to me, that that is pretty good.
Not here.
The bar has dropped so
Relax,
tremendously. All right, Atrioc, over to you.
Okay. Well, I'm torn between a bidet, which I know Ludwig's fans are going to pull, or the Moby Huge.
That's fancy.
Which I've heard
very
is
true.
quite impressive to a date. And I'm going to double down and go with the Moby Huge. I think that's going to really.
Imagine.
I think any date is going to be inspired to see
I
that
think
when
so
they pull
too.
up.
This
think
is
so
a
as well.
life-size dildo. If they walk into your room and there's
Just
a
casually,
Moby
just
Huge,
casually show it to him in the corner and be like, "Hey,
you're like,
Well,
oh,
the-
that? Oh,
oh, that
this
old
is
thing?
so
Yeah, I've got a
stupid of
couple
me.
more."
I
Yeah,
should
the
have
beauty
put it
of the
away.
Moby. The beauty, though, you can decorate it however you want. It's like almost the size of a Christmas tree, so it can get festive. You can put all kinds of things on the Moby Huge.
That's not the beauty
I didn't think
of
about
it.
that. That's a bonus.
All right.
Yeah, I picked Moby Huge.
Yeah, is it on the board, Moby Huge? Let's see. Surely.
Let's go!
Disappointed in the chat.
I really
Emiru,
wanted the
please-
brand name specifically, but it's fine.
Please save us.
A bidet. A bidet.
Okay. Do you own a bidet?
No, I don't. So I guess I'm not gonna impress anyone.
If you win this show, I'm sending you a bidet. I'm trying
my
to get
God.
every streamer to have a bidet.
That's awesome.
All right,
amazing.
let's
You're
take a
changing
look.
lives.
Yeah, I am changing lives.
Not just telling stories.
Whoa.
Stanz, your work's cut out for you. It might be the perfect round.
Don't choke it, Stans.
I'm gonna. One plays kind of
don't
hard.
choke
Kind of tough. Hey, kind of tough. Well, me and Connor are doing our best over here. I'm gonna go ahead and guess a clean bathroom or clean house even. Like cleanliness.
Are you
trying to
How
go
just
big
wrong
can
making
it
it
go?
live?
Human beings.
we
Human beings
lock
in
an
the room just
answer?
having fun.
Friendship. Actually having friends.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, no,
okay.
clean bathroom. That's what I'll guess. Guys, lock it in,
Cleanliness,
man.
clean bathroom. Let's take a look.
Oh, shit.
You have a bed frame. Why does it need to be clean, dipshit?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I really wanted bed frame, but you know what? We don't get
You got a
going for
bed
it.
frame and a Moby Huge. That's all that matters.
There's going to be
see.
someone in chat following along wondering why they're not impressing any dates because they have all this shit here. What am I doing wrong? I followed all of this.
I actually
Bidet
use my
and
Moby
bed
Huge
frame.
as the bed frame.
Imagine this without a bed frame, though. I think it's a different picture.
Let's see which three we missed. Stanzy, you could have gotten number 6, Tampons.
Oh, huge.
It's a classic. Number 5. 3090.
RTX 3090. What
Can
a
you
great
stop
choice.
using my game show as an advertising
I just-
opportunity?
it's a great. It presses any day.
It is a great
Of course,
graphics
RTX
card.
3090 is an amazing graphics card.
Number 4, AMD, hopefully. Pets. Yeah, I guess that's pretty cool. I will say that has absolutely saved Connor's house. He's having his cat.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Bumper. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bumper's he's clutch. After 4 questions, here's where we're at. It looks a little bit more spaced out, but only because you missed the agree or disagree. Next round, however, is the doubles round. So we're going to see a team up. It's going to be Atrioc and Emiru versus Stanz and Connor, and the points are going to double. Usually, this is where we see the biggest pull-aways. Like, teams absolutely find separation here. No, come. It's the. All right, you're not even. Okay,
It's
is it time
reversed
it?
for me.
Hey, pound it. Connor. Oh, fuck. Wrong side. Imagine. Imagine. Come on.
All right.
Okay, well, yay.
Okay.
Now we're talking.
there we go.
And guys, let's go to break.
Yeah. Hey, one name in your chat. doing on the show.
This feels like we went to TGI Fridays, and this is how you found out it was his birthday. These people coming out, happy birthday.
Stop it. It was 2 days ago. It's okay.
A big 27, though. Hopefully make it through the year.
Okay.
Yep, ideally. Let's hope for the best.
27 pretty young, so.
27's like, the milestones after 25 are terrible. Because it's
they're
like,
so bad.
27's the one where you're meant to die. 30's you're old as shit.
Yeah, 27, I'm not mid-20s anymore. Now I'm late 20s. It fucking sucks.
Nothing wrong with it, really, though. 30's a good year.
Well, actually, I agree. 31, though.
Wow.
Sheesh. If you were hitting that soon,
Are you knocking slime right now?
yeah. Either way, let's do our agree or disagree. It's going to start with Emiru, but Charlie, take it away. What is it?
I'm lucky. Agree or disagree?
Mm.
What do you think, Emiru?
I'm gonna put disagree.
Do you
Unlucky.
find yourself to be an unlucky person?
No, I just want to get points.
She just knows Twitch chat. Twitch chat never lucky Sag. Daniel.
Oh yeah, definitely disagree. I think Twitch chat are sad boys and girls, sad folks.
Do you think you're lucky?
Oh, absolutely. I think most people who are watching this are lucky.
I guess if you are on one of the biggest game shows, how many viewers are we at right now?
Over 15 million. It's been a big one today.
Probably.
Wow.
We're
It's a big one.
My phone's been ringing off the hook.
Yeah, that's why I'm mad about
crazy.
the free marketing for NVIDIA. That's like at least 500K.
Well, we'll send you a check.
Connor.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree as well.
Okay, it feels like you guys are all coasting off of Emiru right now, and I gotta call that out. Big A?
Yeah, what the hell?
I'm feeling lucky, baby. Agree.
No
I'm
He's
lucky,
throwing.
and I think I'm lucky.
I
Let's
like
go.
it.
I don't say this
Let's go,
unironically a lot. This is the most Sigma thing you've ever done.
It really is.
You say it
Let's
too much,
take a
to be
look.
honest.
What is the breakdown? Agree, disagree? What did chat say?
baby. Come
Big
on,
A
Twitch
versus
chat.
the world. Big A versus the world.
Oh, that was close.
Ooh, now it's cringe. Now you're just cringe.
You guys are so sad, Zoomers.
That was a good.
They are. That's the show.
Oh my god, bro! If
is
you're watching
Hivemind.
Twitch, you're lucky.
They're watching Twitch chat when fully produced like Netflix series exists. I mean, let's just keep it as that. All right, that is 100 points for everyone but Big A, which ties up a lot of the first place competition.
Does cringe me a little bit.
Just to clear up everything, there's 3 total rounds that you're all involved in, but after that, the top 2 move on only. So it's really key to keep in the running for top 2 at the very least. Team rounds upon us. It's double the points, and let's take a look at the point breakdown. Bear in mind, you don't split these points, you'll both get them. So if you get the number 1 answer, you will each be getting 200 points. It's Atrioc and Emiru versus Connor and Stanz. Charlie, kick us off.
All right. The Church of Scientology bought control of Neopets in the 2000s. What game would they want to own in 2021? I had no clue. I had no clue Scientology took control of Neopets.
Church of Science. Is this real?
I don't know. I think it has to be, right?
Wait, is this real?
I'm going to look
Let's
it up.
do a quick listen in with Orange Team while we look this up.
I think
Yeah.
it's Minecraft or Among Us. I don't know which order. We should pick one of those. I think Fortnite's a little bit less picked.
Yeah, I think Among Us will probably be the most written. Probably.
We can go Among Us first, and then we'll try Minecraft if they take it.
Okay.
Okay, sweet.
Okay.
But I might have just thrown it with the last one, so I think I'm out anyway.
That was bold. I mean, you would have had a huge lead.
Yeah, it would have been
if
sweet.
you were right. It's worth the gamble.
Let's switch
You
over to
were
blue
done
team.
already, so-
They
Invest
probably
enough.
do own Roblox.
Yeah, they
Oh, you have
probably
to
enough
answer
in
3
there.
times? Oh shit, you need 3.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, what does that
Oh, I
mean?
did own
We have
that.
none?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I think 7. No, not that.
Let's pretend we told them. Let's
Okay, Roblox
gaslight
is
them and
third.
pretend we told them.
Yeah,
The same
Oh, really?
answer. How does that work?
we'll figure it out.
Time is up, contestants. As we said, you guys need to each come up with about 3 answers a team because this is the team's round. It's going to ping pong back and forth. You guys will have 1 answer for orange team, then for blue team, and we'll keep doing this 6 times total. So you guys need 3 answers apiece, like we said at the start. Are you guys ready? Orange team, you're going to be going first. Repeat: Church of Scientology bought control of Neopets in 2000s, which is true. Which is crazy. What game would they want to own in 2021?
Amogus.
Bogus.
Mhm.
Buggers. All right,
Among
yeah.
Us.
Makes a lot of sense. Among Us. Let's take a look. Is it on the board?
Hey, Muggers!
That's just a big read.
Big points, 200 a pop. Blue
Maybe
team,
they'll
you need to
finally release a new
strike
map if
back.
they buy it. Make the game a little better.
New map's gonna be big.
It's actually the Scientology church.
A real life game of Among Us.
Blue
Is he
team.
making the thumbnambell right now? What is he doing?
I don't know what he's doing.
No,
We're gonna go.
Linkus is on pace for a world record. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Quack DM said
crazy,
we need a
man.
thumbnail face.
Yeah. Connor,
We're
go
gonna
ahead.
go with Minecraft.
Minecraft?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Popular indie game.
Connor, you're...
Oh, is Atrioc losing his world record in front of our eyes?
No, he lost it.
No, surely
sorry, I'm
that
sorry.
was... He would not be that bad of a friend that he
No,
would make
no,
a
I'm
face
so sad
like,
he
oh,
lost
he
it."
beat me. All
Sad.
right. Let's take a look. Minecraft. Ooh.
Connor Eats Pants picking Minecraft. What else is new, you know?
Okay, all right. He's a variety streamer, guys.
Hey, money's low.
Money's tight, must play Minecraft. Orange team, back to you. You need another guess.
Hey, we agree. Fortnite, right? Right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, Fortnite.
Fortnite.
Ninja Fortnite.
We're just going through
That's
like
what we like to hear.
yeah, the biggest, chilliest Twitch metas. I was on a call with Booga this morning. He wanted to fight me to increase awareness on Minecraft. He wanted to do boxing.
To Fortnite or Minecraft?
No, he wanted to box me in real life. So Fortnite, excuse me, could get more money.
Is that a real story you're
Booga
telling
loves
us?
the
This is a
game,
real
bro.
story.
That's
Booga
crazy.
loves the
Booga
game.
called
You-
Aiden, my roommate, and then was talking about fighting me. I hopped on the phone, and he was like, bro, I would mess you up. Was talking all this shit. I hang up. I listen to his stream, and he goes, wait, that was Ludwig? I thought that was Aiden. So he's just talking shit to Aiden. He didn't realize it was me the whole time. Anyway, I'm going to fight Booga in real life, and hopefully this is number 3 for you guys. Let's take a look. Fortnite.
Oh. Number 3 still on the board.
Oh, Connor, I see it in your eyes.
Cringe?
Yeah,
This is a
champion?
great way to
Go-
tie
you know,
up.
you say you go with the P one, Stanz, okay? The one that starts with
What?
P.
Oh, you want me to go with the one that starts with P, not the one that starts with R?
Yeah, the one that starts.
Okay, if I
Just
fuck this up, I'm gonna feel very bad. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Cringe. It was Roblox.
That
It was
makes
Roblox.
sense.
Cringe. It was Roblox. They said Pokemon. It was cringe.
I
Cringe
think this
alert!
could be a good answer. Let's take a
Major
look
cringe alert. Woo!
at the board. Okay, don't cringe alert before it could be. you pre-jacked cringe alert.
No, I got cringe alerted.
Now you're reverse cringed.
We got him with the Roblox Gambit, Connor. None of us voted.
We did.
Orange team. Only 2 answers left. You guys are doing really well.
R. The one
Roblox. Yeah, Roblox.
Yes, yeah.
Sure. It's not cringe.
Choosing secret quote.
It is.
After he said, and I quote,
for them.
cringe alert. Should have said Roblox.
Yeah, Roblox.
Roblox. Yeah, the Carl Jacobs original game of choice.
Let's go.
Big. And blue
Can we go
team.
6 for 6?
Yeah, this would be really big if you went 6 for 6.
What's our last one now, Stanz?
I got an idea. One that starts with G.
Okay, you don't need to hide it.
bad.
They can't guess anymore. You can
I
just.
mean, they can't guess anymore.
You guys can
I'm
literally
thinking, I'm
talk.
thinking Grand Theft Auto. It's
Yeah,
a
I'm-
big game.
I don't hate that idea. My chat
Okay.
is still spamming Tekken because one guy kept insisting.
Tekken
that
7. Tekken 7, to be sure, is it's one of those two.
Yeah, there's
actually.
just
It's
one
gotta be.
guy, and everybody agrees
Uh-huh.
with him. But I don't.
Yeah,
think
he's
that-
actually the head of the Church of Scientology. So if this is wrong,
he's just the
legally
creator
we
of
win.
Tekken. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna. Ooh, wait. There's another good one.
Okay, well you can say
We
it.
need
There's
an
no
answer,
good
blue
one.
team.
After Tekken 7?
Yeah. We could go
Dive
with
kick.
League.
What could be better than that?
I thought of League, but I don't think that their chats would spam League, right? Call of Duty is an option. Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, League. Those are big games.
Go with Tekken. That was a good one.
And anything but Tekken.
I'll
Connor,
go
which one do you like
GTA.
the most?
We'll go with GTA.
GTA, let's do it. I like that. I respect that.
Okay,
It's
let's
the
lock
it
it
has to
in.
be the last one. That's tough.
Grand Theft Auto. Can we go 6 for 6, gentlemen?
I think we just went 6 for 6.
Oh!
It was Tekken!
If it's Tekken, it had to be.
Let's
If
take
it's
a look.
Tekken, I'm never doubting.
If
my
it's
chat ever
Tekken, that's
again.
gonna be so sad.
Would feel.
Animal
Here it
Crossing?
is, number 6. Oh!
I would have
True.
never
About to go
guessed that.
6 for 6 by
Literally,
yourself.
anybody could own Animal Crossing and make more money than Nintendo has capitalizing on it.
Yeah, they drop an update every 9 months. There's Twitter accounts for how starved they are. Have you gone to the Animal Crossing category on Twitch? It's degenerate. So it's actually no Animal Crossing players. It's people who have islands with all the new stuff, and they give away the stuff for free if you go to the island codes. That's it. It's just island codes, and there's like
That's some
10 of them
leftist
at
shit.
once.
I love that.
No,
Download
Ari
some
was addicted to
Animal
that. Ari was just traveling to islands and stealing bells and shit for weeks. My fiance.
Either way, after one, I forgot that's what Ari did. She just had like islands she would give out.
Yeah.
After round one, pretty close race still, but Orange Team, you guys crushed that round. Congratulations. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with another team's round.
Yeah, sure. Big thank you to those artists. That looked fantastic. Again, you can submit all the fan art on the Hivemind Discord, hivemindshow.tv/Discord. The artwork is really just wild, especially the couple of new ones there. I like the one where Ludwig and I were almost kissing, nuzzling
The
our noses together.
smoochy one? That was so
Sweet.
cute.
Yeah, it's like an album.
That was
artwork.
erotic.
And you know what they say? Maybe life imitates art. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I don't know. Well, okay, you feel like not as... All right, well, thanks so much to the artists. And we have our second question. Again, as we said, guys, don't forget this time you need 3 answers apiece. And if it's stolen, you might need a 4th or a 5th, so really mull it over. This question comes from Little Root, or inspired by Little Root from my Discord. Charlie, take it away.
Blank will never go out of style.
Oh,
60 seconds. I know all about style. Go wild.
what's your answer?
Scene. I think scene is the best goddamn style we've ever seen.
Scene. What is scene?
Yeah. What do you mean? What is
Like
scene?
scene clothing? Like a scene
like-
kid?
Like the scene kids, yeah.
Yeah.
That shit was great.
It's just so much more of an idea than a thing. And I think of a thing when I see this. My first thought, and my chat is spamming it, was dead ass Crocs.
Yeah, true. Okay, yeah. If we're going for like things instead of like
My
actual
first thought for you was a
styles.
white t-shirt.
Well, yeah. Well, that's a staple right there.
That will never go out of style.
I guess like also like activities will never go out of style, like fucking sports or masturbating or something. I guess.
Yeah. I think most people are jumping to clothing. Let's do a quick 10-second listen into Orange Team.
Sense.
I see people write Minecraft.
I know, but I don't.
Oh,
it's like
God.
a few people writing it a lot, but I don't think that's it. I don't think it's Minecraft.
Yeah.
Got it. Time is up. Minute on the clock. You need to come up with a few answers each. Now, Orange Team got to go first last time. That was a pretty huge advantage. Blue Team, you guys get to go first this time. Stanz, Connor, you guys deliberated a bit. Which one we going with?
Which one do you like the most, Connor? The first one we said?
The A1?
Yeah, I guess
the
we
C1?
start with Among Us, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to start with Among Us.
Oh, it's actually the A1.
Yeah,
Among
it
Us
is
never
Really?
goes out of style.
Uh-huh.
Never.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Can I show
You
you,
still
a
playing
chart
Among Us,
real
Connor?
quick? Can I just
What
show
do
you
know
guys a
about
chart?
Among Us?
Are you still playing it?
Can I show you Disguised Toast's YouTube channel real quick?
He retired. He retired on top.
Yeah. I mean, he did. I'm just saying, I wouldn't say it never goes out of style.
He could have kept it going.
Maybe
There's
it
also
ebbs and
another
flows.
game, Connor, that you like that hasn't gone out of style for 20 years.
Say it, Connor.
Let's lock it in. Amogas. Is it on the board?
Kind of deep, but it is there.
Tough start. Okay, well. Hey, unbiased
All
host,
right.
maybe, you know?
You got one. You got one. Let's move over to Orange Team.
I'm thinking the footwear. Emmy.
You don't
What are
want
you
to do that as what you were saying.
Well, okay, we gotta do it now because we said it. We can't
I
leak it.
trust you. We had a good
All right,
conversation.
we're picking the famous anime. You guys may not know it. S3K. S3K, one of the
fuck is
all-time
that?
greatest. If you haven't heard of it, you're just not a
They
true
better
anime
have
fan.
spammed.
We're gonna go with S3K. One of the greatest animes.
Oh,
Emmy
Charlie,
loves
you've
it.
never
Emmy's
heard
seen
of
it. I've seen it.
S3K?
I can't say I have, but maybe I'm just a Neanderthal. Apparently.
Yeah, you're a little bit out of
Check
the
out
loop. No
the
big deal. Google it
S3K
later.
wiki. All right, S3K, is it on the board?
It's like cave drawings. When was this?
It's so old.
Oh, he got it, though.
Hey, man, good job.
Barely.
Hey,
I'm gonna
definitely
say
the C
you
one
did
stands.
Yeah, it
not
has to be,
need
'cause
to
they've
use
said it. I
that
think
early.
We're going to go with
1000%.
the C one, and not the one that was banned by Twitch. We're going Crocs.
Crocs. Yeah, okay. Finally, an answer that's looking to be number 1 or 2 here. I don't know why you guys were fishing. I think this is good, though, because we're probably going to go 6 for 6, which is going to be cool to see. But let's take a look. I got 10 pairs of them. Crocs, is it on the board?
Damn, Atrioc threw. Emmy wanted it.
Emmy
Emmy
actually
did
saved that
want
for
it.
us. He was going to go with
I'm not mad
Crocs.
about
And,
it.
Well, to
No,
be
I was
clear,
gonna go with
Emmy
Crocs, but-
also would have gone 6 for 6 last board. She's just genuinely smarter than all of you.
Thank you, Ludwig.
Blue team, over to you. Or excuse me, orange team.
team.
Orange
team.
We were both team. It's orange.
I'm colorblind.
Jeans.
Yeah,
Jeans?
jeans. I was gonna say
Let's
that.
go
yeah.
jeans. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're going jeans.
Pretty true.
Good old-fashioned
Jeans.
blue jeans.
Nothing like blue jeans.
I don't like it.
An old Ford. Nice belt.
Daytona. Okay.
Good answer.
Okay.
We are in a dicey territory where we could go 6 for 6. Blue team, you have a big chance to extend a lead here. What do you think?
Do we have to do it, Connor?
The one that I said might be on.
Oh, or the one that I mean, it could be. I'm down for anything because I'm dog shit stupid. So,
All right. I'm going to, you know what? I'm just going to trust my chat. I'm going to trust my chat because they usually get it right. I'm going to say Tekken 7.
Oh, he's going for it. The Tekken Gambit.
Tekken 7 Gambit.
It's like everybody's
my
chat
God.
trying to pull out their own bag of memes. You have Crocs from me, you have S3K from Atrioc. All right.
I hear it's a great game.
Tekken 7. Let's see,
Tekken
is Connor's
7.
chat strong
this would be a
enough
huge
to
number
clutch
2.
here?
That's crazy.
That's big.
Tekken 7
Popular game.
never goes out of style.
Yeah. It will last longer than Among Us. When Among Us and Crocs fall, Tekken 7 will rise.
There's a reason Connor's in the
my
Hall
God.
of Fame.
It's an honest answer.
I can't wait for them to make Tekken 8 so we can throw out the copies.
It won't be the same.
Orange team, there's only one left. We could see
Yeah.
the forbidden 6 for 6 here. You guys are down
I think
a couple
there's
hundred.
only one choice, Emmy. I think it's Minecraft. I think we got to say it because Connor wouldn't. He didn't have the stones.
You know what? All right.
Do you have any other? I mean, I'm open if you have anything else.
can
but
deliberate?
I think it's Minecraft.
It's actually
Well,
Tekken
yeah, my
6,
chat
Atrioc.
says
I'm gonna give it.
Minecraft,
Tekken 6.
Black, or Shrek for some reason.
It could be Shrek.
It could be Shrek.
Shrek.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we did spam Shrek a little bit.
But I
He
would
does
say
poke
I'm
his
gonna go with
playful head out
Minecraft.
sometimes.
Okay, we'll do the Minecraft.
All right. Connor didn't have the huevos or the rancheros. Let's see. Is Minecraft on the board?
6 for 6. There it is.
Wow. Great job to both you guys. I love seeing a 6 for 6. But blue team, you guys did get number 1 and 2. So you're going to come away with a little bit of a point lead after the doubles round. Still.
Yes,
I love that soundbite. Still a narrow race. 20 points separates Atrioc and Stanz and Connor, and Emiru not too far behind either. In the third round, the points will triple. Only 2 of you will make it out of that round, and we'll get to it right after this break. See you guys in a second. Yes, sir.
I think my answer is pretty good. You know, I think air hockey is a very intimate game. There's a lot of eye contact involved, and I think, yeah, absolutely.
You're making eye contact during. I gotta look down at the air hockey.
Yeah, whenever you go down and grab the little puck, and you like, you know.
I'm just imagining playing air hockey and you're playing defense and staring at me, and I'm terrified. I'm terrified at that idea.
That's how he wins.
I'm also slightly attracted to that, so let's lock it in. Air hockey, is it on the board? Please. Number 4. Okay.
Well, it is on there.
It's there.
There you go. I'll take it any way I can get it, okay?
Tear today, dude.
Hivemind is back into that wild and wacky round 3. But before we get into that craziness, we have another agree or disagree question. Cookie dough, better than cookies? Where do you stand? Stands. That wasn't on purpose.
Good one. Oh, fucking nice.
I didn't mean that.
So far, I've done the opposite of what I think because I'm old and not cool, and I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna disagree.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
Cookie dough is way better, but I can't fight the tides of time.
Yeah. Some things maybe are timeless, though. Let's see. Connor, what do you think? You're a Zoomer.
I don't think he's reading the culture right. I'm gonna say agree.
Ooh, culture war.
Please no.
Atrioc.
Damn, Connor saying that is throwing a wrench in the culture war. I'm actually don't know where to side now. I hard disagree IRL. I think cookies are generally better than the dough. Unless it's our dough, Ludwig. We made that fun.
Our dough is so good, dude.
Our dough was great. Our cookies were terrible.
We're so bad, but we made some fire dough.
So I'm going to say disagree, but Connor has really thrown a mental wrench into this.
Emiru?
I'm gonna agree with Connor.
Oh, okay. A 2v2. Let's take a look. We got a couple of boomers on the show. Are they out of touch? What did chat say? This is big.
Oh, shit.
Close.
That's crazy.
Right side of the culture war, chat. Take to Twitter.
Boomers take it. Per usual, America as it stands.
Couple of white boomers.
Tax breaks. Dividends.
You guys are getting too excited by all this. Round 3, guys, I have to let you know, works a lot differently than the other 2 rounds. It's actually the most points if you get the 6th highest answer, not the first highest answer. You can take a look at it right here. Points are triple, but it's 300 for number 6, 120 for number 1. So you can't just force your chat through sheer spamming to get the number 1 answer anymore. You have to think about it. You have to be a little devious and a little trevious.
Wait. Say that again. Why can't I do that? I tuned you out, and I was gonna do that. Please explain why I can't use my chat to spam a thing.
Say it slower for him.
I'm not
Say it
dealing
one
with
more
this.
time.
I'm
No,
not.
I missed it.
I'm not
I
Charlie
missed
deal with
it.
this. I'm not dealing with this.
I'm
You
sorry.
don't
I'm not
wanna
paid
do-
nearly enough.
I'll handle it. You don't want to do it because you'll get less points. You want to get number 6, Atrioc.
Oh, you want to get it wrong? Okay, I got it. Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, you want to get it just
Well,
right.
no. Yeah, you don't want to get it. Well, I mean, you could get it wrong if you. I'm not your dad. You can get it wrong.
Okay,
if you
I
want,
got
man. You don't need my coaching.
You want to
still
get
wanna
the
get it
lowest
two
answer
right.
possible.
Okay.
Sometimes you might gamble too hard and you might go off, or sometimes you might just say, let's get the secure points of number 1. But that's the basic idea. Let's jump into it, Charlie, with our first question.
All right. This is coming from another community member. Or actually, no, it's not. What classic console had the best titles? So, classic console, best titles, 60 seconds. Go wild.
Number 1 answer is definitely N64.
Yeah, I think N64, GameCube, 1 and 2 all day. But I think, like, pound for pound, original Xbox, had more great titles.
I think PS2 has so much underrated new IP.
Yeah, well, PS2 has the most games of any console ever made. They have, like, fucking
Really?
40,000 games. Well, not that many, but, like, a ton.
Yeah. PS2 has so much good IP, and I will say because of that, the PSP has a bunch of amazing sequels that people haven't experienced. Like
'cause of the PSP.
Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Battlefront Renegade Squadron, even the solo Dexter game was pretty good.
The solo Dexter game?
Yeah, Daxter. Jack and Daxter.
Oh, Jack and Daxter. Gotcha.
I was mixing him up with the murderer, the TV
Yeah,
show.
I was gonna say it's really shocking that game turned out well.
You play as Dexter and you just are a serial killer.
The odds, you know.
Time is up, contestants. Kind of a tough one. We're going to start with Atrioc this time.
So I'm going for 6th, right?
You're
Yep.
going
Okay.
for 6 for the most points possible.
Let's say the
but-
Wii U.
Ooh, you're just jumping right into it.
Jesus,
I'm
he
so
just-
sorry.
I'm disgusted by that answer.
What is
Yeah,
the
he just
Wii
thrown
U,
it
Alex?
away.
Can you
Was that
name
classic?
3 good games on the Wii U?
Smash Bros.
Smash 4 is not good.
It had an
Breach,
emulator. It had Rayman Raving Rabbids. It had Mario.
What Mario?
Check and mate. Wii U, please. Put it on the board.
All right, let's just take a look. Wii U, right? Wii U specifically?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Wii U, is it on the board? The classic console from like a few years ago.
What? Well, you got one.
Okay,
I
so
didn't think your plan worked out.
I think his strategy might have been to have his chat
thought
spam
Chat's
it.
too big.
A little confident there.
Okay.
Emiru, what
all
about
right.
you?
All right.
I'll get PlayStation 2.
I mean, I think that's a
Guaranteed
great
points,
answer.
Yeah. Don't know
And it-
where it's gonna be, but that's guaranteed.
I think it might have snuck under the radar because people were trying to gamify it, like maybe by suggesting like shitty consoles and getting number 1. Let's see, PS2, is it
I
on the
love the Wii U.
board? You do not love the Wii U.
I never owned one, but I loved it.
Okay.
I'll take
Good.
it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It keeps you in the running. Again, top 2 are going to move on to our final round, and that's it. So 2 people are going to get eliminated here after the 4 questions. Stanz, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm gonna say.
You looking
with
at
my
notes?
Yes. GameCube. I am looking at notes.
Yeah, actually. Okay. GameCube. Let's take a look. I can't believe you're taking notes.
Welcome to the show, kid.
Okay.
Woo! Good answer, Connor. You got number 5 and 6 there. That could spring you all the way to first place if you get them. Oh, you stole one?
Good card.
Wait, did you steal one from the set?
Let's go.
What do you mean? Let's go.
Let's go.
Not all I stole, BTS.
Okay, fair enough. Connor.
My answer here is either number 2 from Pumping It or it's number 6. Okay, I'm gonna go with Dreamcast.
Oh.
Oh, such a good console too.
Wait, so you pumped it in your chat?
First online.
Kinda.
This is going to be number 2. I'm just telling you right now. Let's take a look. Dreamcast.
Might be.
I bet number 5 and 6 are like the good answers, like N64.
Oh, nice, Connor. Oh, he's insane.
And that puts you up to second place right now. We missed number 2. I'm assuming gotta be N64.
64, yeah.
Okay.
64 and the Wii.
And number 6, maybe the Wii.
Yes.
The Wii was pretty good.
DS?
Yeah, the Wii.
The Wii.
Wee.
Bro, if I just
Yeah.
dropped the U.
All right. Well, that's question 1. I hope you guys get how it works now. We got 3 more to go. Charlie, hit him with the next question.
Which fandom is the easiest to accidentally offend? 60 seconds. Go wild. Try and
Hi,
get
my
canceled on
producers. What are
Twitter.
you doing to us? Why? All right.
Wait, I don't get to pick first anymore.
Good luck. Atrioc, you're last.
You don't want to
Emiru,
be
you're
first, dude. It's backwards.
This is. Have you seen the 2 Mad War?
Oh, yeah, with the
Dude.
BTS army.
Yeah, he's like trying to go for him. I don't know what pleasure he gets out of that.
Yeah, it just seems pretty miserable.
It does not seem fun in any, like, there's no winning. You gain nothing.
Yeah, it's just angry, like, young people spamming fan cams. It's not, like, enjoyably trolly.
Chat, let's throw a little wrench in this. Do you have a fun answer for this one?
Every fandom ever is so easily offended. I can't think of anything, like, wholesome.
Dude, the Canadian fandom.
just
I make
general
fun of
Canadian.
Canada, so I make fun of Canada a lot, right? Because I say NA when I mean America, and Canada gets super mad at me. And I had someone send me a huge email. I'm like, hey, Ludwig, I love your streams, but the way you've been talking about Canada has made me really upset. Like, listen,
Ludwig, you lost a fan.
yeah, I lost a fan. They were wiping me out. All right, we need a little bit of time to go through the answers right here, but Emiru, you are first. Talk us through your thought process here.
There's some good answers for most voted, but I mean, I can't go for the obvious. I'll say maybe anime fans.
Okay, what? So when you're saying most voted, what would you be? What would you be referring to? For example,
What are you trying to? What kind
like
of
what
position
community
are
do
you
you
trying to-
think is so touchy here, Emiru? Or
Well, I mean, I don't know. Just like some people, there's some people out there, you know. I don't want to name any names. That's not what I have to do on this channel.
you heard it here live. Emiru hates all Minecrafters and BTS fans and Trump.
Hey, any publicity is good publicity.
Hey, got a little spicy on that one. All right. Let's take a look. We're going for something maybe a little safer here. Anime. What specific one? I don't think you need to specify, but is there a specific anime that you think would be more?
I was thinking My Hero or Dragon Ball Z, one of those two.
Yeah. I think the
JoJo's.
Demon Slayer. Oh yeah, JoJo's people do
JoJo.
get rancid. There's a lot of ways to name them, but let's take a look. Anime fans. Is it on the board? Hopefully a low one. Okay.
I was gonna guess that's 3K. That's tough.
They are
It's
easy
a
to defend.
popular anime. Charlie, you gotta watch it, bro. You gotta check it
Yeah,
out.
no, I was
swear.
checking out the plot synopsis. Dewey, Louie, and Huey seem
Oh
to go
my
on a
God,
crazy
dude.
adventure.
Their characters are. You'll get engrossed.
What's cool is that they named him that, and then it got bought by Disney instead of getting sued into the ground by Disney.
Crazy.
Daniel.
Yeah, I am going to say K-pop.
Damn, pick the
Oh,
number
I
Just
two
looking
already.
for points.
Yeah, it's just going
Well, I
for
think
number
that you
one.
guys were trying to skamaz, and so I'm thinking maybe some regular
Oh.
Joes would, you know?
Yeah, kind of like how the last one, even at
One was
64,
Wii
was
U,
number
even though the
two.
Wii U
It's
is
a
not a
great
classic
console. It's a
console.
classic console.
All right, let's take a look. K-pop, is it on the board?
Hey,
All right,
not number one.
Slash
Points.
BTS.
Okay, producers, don't specifically mention a band. All right, come on. This is our
That's
Twitter's
so
at stake.
dangerous.
Hivemind hates BTS confirmed.
Alex, put your Twitter on the screen. I don't want to have this smoke. Connor, what about you?
There's a lot of options. You hear that laugh?
Yeah, it's from the producers, Connor. You're not getting
It was like,
haunted.
are we not going to question that? Anyways, there's a lot of options. I think I know what number one is.
Okay.
I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with what my chat was thinking. Oh, wait, each lag of it? Okay, we're good. I'm gonna go with Tekken.
That's what I was gonna go. Hopefully it's number 1.
It's the greatest game on earth, but they're also so sensitive.
They get
so
very
bad at
See
upset.
picking
how much
characters,
Tekken
yeah.
7 has shown up.
Yeah. All right, let's take a look. Tekken 7. You're so touchy.
Jesus
Good
Christ.
answer.
It's the perfect size. It's the perfect size.
And Atrioc, this is a great board to look at because you probably know what number 1 is. So you have only
I'm
5
gonna
and
go
6, maybe.
with the dunker of L nerds himself, Aiden Ross. I'm going with Aiden.
Oh, he's saying Voldemort's name.
That's right.
All right.
I said it 3 times. Aiden,
I do
Aiden.
not condone this. I think Aiden
Rice
Ross is a
gum,
great
Aiden
content
Ross.
creator, smiley
I think
face.
he's a W streamer personally.
I think he's a W streamer
I said
too.
he's the dunker of L nerds. He dunked you. He's
This
great.
guy's old.
But you're saying you're saying his fandom is the easy. Okay, all right. Let's just move on. Aiden Ross is it on the board? Want to say anything to me? Clipped ear.
Oh no!
You're a W streamer. You're a W streamer. Only
W.
W's from me
Thanks,
towards
Aiden.
you.
Aiden, you're the best.
Only W's all the way. Let's take a look at what we missed. Number 1, probably Minecraft. Number 5.
Yeah.
All right, I gave you guys a hint. I gave you guys a hint. No one took it. No one bit. All right, moving over. I guess Hassan's offline. So question number 3. What is it, Charlie?
What food is only good in small amounts? So 60 seconds. Get after it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
What food is good?
Food.
In
Small amounts.
Small amount.
Everyone said it the same exact way with the same intonation.
Yeah.
In small
It is-
amounts.
It is very confusing. I can't think of anything that really fits there.
Edibles.
Oh, nice. Very good.
Also caviar. It's incredibly salty, so if you have too much, it's just disgusting.
Jesus,
Truffles.
You were on one subathon, now you're eating fucking caviar.
What's that thing that's in someone's spine? What do you call that?
Jesus. Spinal fluid?
No. The thing you eat though. Bone marrow.
Oh, bone marrow.
Bone marrow, for sure. Too much of that is kind of gross. Let's do a quick listen in. Who do you want to hear?
Let's see what Connor's going on about.
Those of you that haven't, put in pants, okay? But only some. Just the subs, not plebs. Plebs, no. Plebs
Ooh,
throw in,
he's
I don't know,
gamifying it with
fucking
pants.
other shit. Look at the other chats. All right?
Glizzy's is funny.
I'm just gonna
I guess you
fucking
can't eat
risk it.
too many hot dogs.
True.
Unless your name is... I don't even know his name, actually. What's his name?
Joey Chestnut, you're
That's
thinking
it.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time is up, contestants. Hopefully you guys came up with some good answers. We're going to start with Staniel this time. Next round is going to be your juice round because you're going to go last. But now you got to go first. Talk to us. What
So
food?
I have a friend, and he's got fingers that are very, very big. Some might call him Atrioc Sarah Glizzy Hands Ewing.
No
I'm
one
going
would
with
call me
Glizzies.
Dude, I saw it. I saw it abbreviated as GH, and I was like, "That's such a classy way to do it. It's so classy. That could be on a resume."
I don't have glizzy hands. They're normal fingers.
Ugh,
Everyone
can you
can
put
see.
them away?
Oh
Put them
my God,
away,
they're
bro.
massive.
It's
They're like
against
piano
COS.
fingers. They're
shit, the
normal
gross.
size. I don't know where to
Throwing up.
start it. I don't.
You do this, and it covers the whole screen.
Okay. It doesn't.
All right, Glizzies is your answer here.
I'm hoping the co-streamers kept it down.
Good luck.
We spammed it, boys. We spammed it high.
180. It's gonna put you in first. We can see what Connor and Atrioc do to follow up. They could pass you here, though. What do you think, Connor?
I'm stressed, dude. This is not easy.
Heard a little gamifying. Are you going for the answer I think you are?
I think I'm gonna have. I don't have another answer.
Don't do. Come
so-
on, Connor. You're better than this. Don't say it.
It's hard. So listen, I know the Twitch chatters. I know Twitch. This isn't the kind of thing that
Come
they
on,
talk
man.
about. I don't know. So I'm gonna go with pants because I eat.
Come
pants.
on, bro. You're
We
better
talked
than
about it.
this. This is what the
That's a
crafters
good one.
wanted. Not
Holy
the
shit, that's a
variety
funny
streamer.
one.
Eat
All right.
pants.
Pant. Is it on the board?
Oh, too big.
Did anybody
Too
else? Did
big.
anybody else tell their chat to say pants?
No,
I'm
I didn't even
curious.
think
God,
about it till now.
Good to know. Good to know.
All right, Big A.
I'm gonna give a real answer because Glizzy and Pants were taken, so I'm gonna say candy. Candy's only good in small amounts.
You're old. Okay. Yeah, that's some bah humbug shit right there.
Yeah. All right, candy, I guess. Let's take a look. Is it on the board? This is either base number 6 or off.
Wow.
Interesting.
All right, it's not that bad. Chad only lost 30 points. Stop
Bro, you
saying
eating
choked.
like 10 bags of candy? You eat a little bit of candy, it's good. You feel sick after a bunch.
I'd be
I've watched you eat 10
sucking
bags
down
of candy.
peanut M&Ms
I
going
eat a lot of
nuts.
candy, but I feel sick afterwards every time.
Emiru, you have a huge opportunity here with 4, 5, and 6 left to bring yourself right back in the contest. What do you think?
My chat's begging me to say Tekken 7, but I'm gonna say Wasabi.
Do it. No. Oh,
I don't
man.
think Tekken
I mean,
7 would be on the
well-
board because it's not a food, you know?
Yeah, I
not
don't
a
think
food.
they'd allow Tekken 7.
I mean, neither is Pants, but
Yeah, that's
Well, let's
fair.
not get carried away.
You can eat pants,
You know,
you can't eat Tekken 7.
There's edible pants out there. There's no edible Tekken 7.
how do you know? I'll say Wasabi.
Heard of it. Not accepting which one? Hold up. Producers in my ear.
I'm sure
As
they're
far
not
as
giving
Tekken
Tekken 7.
She
Sure,
said wasabi.
wasabi's illegal. Yeah.
No, you can
I'm
eat
sure
wasabi.
wasabi's legal, Ludwig. Not.
No. Yeah, I'm telling you, you can eat. Yeah, but I know it's fake
He's doing
wasabi,
a
but
bit.
they use horseradish.
No,
They
he's
use
doing a bit.
horseradish instead. Yeah, we're gonna. Okay, yeah, let's take a look. We're gonna count it. Wasabi, is it on the board? Huge answer from Emiru. That brings you to 1890, within striking distance of not only second but first place. This is going to be a spicy last question. Let's see the 2 we missed. Number 4. Cheese.
What? That's
What?
not true.
Yeah, that's
just
fucked
not
up.
true.
You can eat a lot
think
of cheese.
you guys have to understand, most people in the world are lactose intolerant.
Hey, that's
Edibles is a good
Atrioc.
answer.
Yeah, 20 gummies in.
Unless your name's Big A. All right, let's switch over to Q4, our final one. And just to clarify, this is our last question for all 4 of you. Only 2 are going to move on from this round, and 2 will be eliminated. This is do or die to make it to the finale and to make it to our season championship. Charlie, let's do it. What is it?
This comes from a community member named Luby. When people blank, it makes me cringe.
His name's Luby.
Yeah.
That's a funny name. When people blank, it makes me cringe.
People smile. God, fucking happy people are so gross.
When people... Honestly, when people dance. Unless
Really?
they're really good at it.
Even if they're just vibing the music, not like a
No,
full-blown
that's
breakdance
fine, I
routine?
guess. That's fine. Dancing, I can't... I'm thinking like TikTok dances. That's what popped in my head. Like if
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going through TikTok
awful.
and I see a TikTok dance, to me that is cringe. Not like someone vibing on the dance floor living their best life.
No, okay. That makes a lot more sense now that you explain it.
Also,
I can't think of anything else.
watching somebody stream is cringe. Not like watching a stream, but in real life and seeing them stream or record a YouTube video, talking to the camera.
Oh, that's a good one. IRL streamers. Like
Yeah.
when you see an IRL streamer, oh my fucking
True.
god.
That does
So yucky.
make me lose my marbles.
Yeah.
Don't want to leak too much of what we said. This is our final round. As you guys know, 2 are going to move on to the finals, and one of you is going to win the game. 100 from me, 100 gifted, that is, and a chance to go to our finale. Connor, you're going to go first for this one. When people blank, it makes me cringe. You're 60 points off of second place. You need a big answer here. What do you think?
I'm really stressed.
That makes sense.
I got to figure out how to get a lower used one.
You have a legacy to uphold, because this is not just like 100 gifted. You don't care about that. ConnorEatsPants is rich. He has a bed frame. You care about holding the legacy of being the highest point earner ever in Hivemind history.
I do. That is the title that I have, and I would like to keep.
Bumper's watching.
Yes. Between 2 for me, but
We need an answer.
all right. I'm gonna say
Okay.
What
Not
did he
yet.
say?
I'm gonna say
says-
cringe. Cringe.
When people
people
cringe,
cringe,
it makes
it
me
makes
People
cringe.
cringe, it makes you cringe.
Oh, he's going for more of a metagame kind of
That's
answer. here. I kinda
true,
like that.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing like laughing. It's infectious in a way.
Yeah.
All right. When people cringe, it makes me cringe. Is it on the board?
Oh.
That is just good enough. No. This means it'll be a tie if Stanz gets the number one answer. Pretty good job there. Big A, up to you.
Listen, there's only one thing in this world that makes me cringe to my core. And that's when people buy or use AMD products.
It seems like you have
disgusts me.
pumped your chat for this one.
No, I'm speaking honestly. I didn't even look at my
Yeah.
phone.
This is number one.
You didn't even say this out loud.
No.
If this is number one, he would maybe even be locked. So going for number one would be a good strat here. Let's take a look. When people buy AMD. Pretty big. Pretty big. Taking the number two answer leaves a big door open for Connor. Emiru, you still have a chance here, actually, if you get 300 points and 300 points only. That's the only answer that will let you go through if Stanz misses.
I'm gonna say vaping.
I think that's a very good
actually
chance to be number
such a good
6.
answer. That's such a
That's
good
a really
answer.
good
If
one.
this is number 6, it would knock out Connor, and it would put Stanz in a hot seat. All right, this is juicy vaping. Is it on the board? Good luck, Emiru.
Oh, that was probably like number 7 right there.
Yeah, that was a really good answer.
Yeah.
All right, Staniel, this is the situation you're in. If you get number 1, you tie for second. If you get any of the others, you guaranteed move on.
What happens if you tie?
We have never
flip a
ever
coin.
encountered it ever. Yeah, I think we flip a coin or you do like an actual 100-meter dash or something.
I'm gonna do the one I said. It might be number 1. It might not be. I'm gonna go dab. Because chat makes fun of me when I do it.
Okay. That makes a
Do
lot
one
of
now.
sense.
Do one now for us, Stans.
Can I do the triple? Ludwig taught me this. Don't pretend like you did.
You want to do the triple?
Never done it in my life.
The triple is actually from Nick. I have to give credit where it's due, at Falco on Twitter. All right, let's take a look. Dab. Is it on the board? If it's number 1, it's a tie.
Our first time.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, gentlemen, we are moving immediately into a
Holy
tiebreaker
shit.
question in between Stanz and Connor. Atrioc, you are locked. Emiru, you are now officially out. I'm sorry to hear that. Let's take a look at what we missed real quick. These are the answers that would have gotten you there, Stanz. Number 4, play Tekken.
I would not have guessed that.
Number 5, smile.
Okay,
What?
that was one in the background.
And number 6, dance.
I almost said that.
That's one I was pumping. I was thinking of TikTok dances. All right,
Flossing.
this is tiebreaker time. Flossing's cool, Emiru, please.
Sorry.
Now, the way the tiebreaker works, Charlie, take it away.
Well, you see, when it comes to tiebreakers, Ludwig, I think you're just more knowledgeable on it. You do a much better job of explaining
So
it.
we're going to have one question, and you have to have the highest answer point total after these questions. It's still going to work in the round 3 format for the tiebreaker.
reverse?
It's still going to be reverse.
Still
This is the
reverse.
question. This game helps you relax. Wrong answers only. Good luck.
Got it.
No, you guys just chill. Yeah, sorry. They should. Production's losing their mind. They're stressed. We'll give you 10 extra seconds. We'll give you 20 extra seconds. No, okay. Everyone relax. Everyone relax. They're gonna fix it. They're gonna fix it. It is getting low.
I hope you're spending your time wisely.
Yo, question for you.
Yeah.
Production. Oh, wait. They can still hear me? All right. We should probably give them an extra minute. I don't... With silence. We're going to restart in Isolate. We're going to give you guys an extra minute. Yeah. We're just going to redo the minute on the clock.
Here.
Go
I'm
again.
just here.
Go again.
Yeah, run it back.
We're going to keep going.
Oh shit.
That was we're gonna do a minute of actual silence in real
Sorry,
time.
I was deaf.
Just so you guys can find the best answer possible. In production, is everyone answering or just these two? Okay, it's gonna be just those two, and they answer once. Okay. Okay. We've never dealt with this before. Okay, we have to tell them
this
that.
is
We should definitely tell them
uncharted
that.
territory.
Because if we don't tell them that, they're gonna be like, "What?"
Yeah, I think that's only fair.
Chad, it's gonna be 3 answers apiece. This is the production. I'm telling you right now, they are running around and shit is on fire. And there's one guy who is the "this is okay" dog.
I wonder if they had like a tiebreaker thing ready, or if they just made it up on the spot.
They for sure did, right? You gotta have that. So when I did Mogul Money, they told me to have a tiebreaker, and I was like, great. And I put 1 tiebreaker question, and they tied on the tiebreaker. Originally, they wanted me to have 3, but I was like, they'll definitely get this right. It was, where was Beethoven born? What city? And it was, if you know he's German, it's like it was Berlin. It's like the only German city you would know.
That's such a hard question.
Yeah, but it's the only, if you took a stab at it.
Oh no.
It was hard. Time is up. Yeah, it was.
I
was
wouldn't
a little
know
dumb.
Beethoven was born in Berlin.
Well, you know, I am worldly. Time is up, guys. Hopefully you thought of some good answers. Now, the way it's going to work, very simply, you're going to have 3 answers apiece. Okay, 3 answers apiece for this one. It's still going to be round 3 format, so it's going to be number 6 gets you the most points, and we are going to flip a coin to decide who goes first. All right, old-fashioned rule. Would you like to call it in the air? We'll do youngest has the honors. Connor?
I'm gonna call tails.
To be clear,
It never
this
fails.
is heads. Oh, sorry, this is from getting nominated. And this is
What a way to
tails.
flex, dude.
This is so embarrassing. I didn't realize it. I was the only coin I had.
Yeah, you didn't realize that?
Tails.
Whoa! Good call.
All right,
Wow.
Connor, you get to go first. It's 3 answers. You can
This
just
is reverse, right? We don't want number 1.
It is
Yeah, you want number
reverse.
6.
Okay.
Go ahead and list your first answer.
My first answer, I'm gonna go with getting over it.
Getting over it. Okay. Are we taking a look to see if that's on the board here?
Well, don't we pick 3 and then it goes?
That's how it works in the finals. I don't know if that's how it works in tiebreaker.
Yeah, we've never seen a tiebreaker.
Okay,
we
we're
gonna
gonna
go
reveal
back and
after
forth,
each.
or am I
No, we're
picking
gonna
all
reveal
3?
after each one.
Yeah, but Stan's turn now, right?
No, we're gonna reveal your answer
We're
right
gonna
now. Getting
reveal-
over it. Take a
oh,
look,
okay.
buddy.
That's
Wait,
huge.
Connor's score is going to be nutty from this tiebreaker.
Oh, true.
Oh, I am farming.
Staniel, this does still mean you're in it. There's 3 answers total. He could whiff. What's your guess?
Say. I mean, I think I have to say it. It's appeared a lot. I'm gonna say Tekken.
Yeah, I thought that was coming.
It'll
I think
be
it's gonna
on there.
Number 1 though.
It might be
It's
high.
not too much. Well, no, I mean, Hitman's got to be up there.
Let's take a look. Tekken 7. Is it on the board?
Just Tekken. Let's to be clear. They're too good. Oh, he baited me.
Nice.
They pumped it.
All
They
right.
pumped and dumped
Hey,
it, really.
2 more answers apiece. This is not over yet. Connor,
Okay.
it's pretty unlikely to go 6 for 6. I imagine we'll see a whiff
There's a strat
here.
I could go for here, which is knowing that Stan's just got number 1. I could pick a popular answer and secure number 2.
That's true.
Which would still be a net positive over that. And
It's better
I'm
than
gonna do
missing. That's for
I
sure.
think I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with Doom.
Nice. Oh, that's very good. Yep, he's in the zone now.
Let's take a look. Is
playing the
Doom
game.
on the
He's
board?
playing the game.
King.
Is Doom on the board?
All right, GG, Connor.
He's overpowered.
It is still
That's
actually
tough.
not over. It is still not over. You can go 3 for 3, and if Connor misses his final answer, then you'll be in the contest. But he is not making it easy on you, Stanz.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Dark Souls.
Good answer. It's a
I think you
classic.
got number 4 with that one.
Hope
Let's
so.
take a look.
I need it.
Dark Souls.
Oh,
That's the best answer you could have possibly given. And you are now within
possible?
range. It is possible, yes. If you
Even
get
if he binks
200,
number 2.
If you get 210 points or 100, no, excuse me, it's just the number 3 answer. If you get that, you pass him.
Well,
but he has to miss. He does have to whiff right now.
Oh, no.
Which Connor can't do.
Oh,
Hit or
Agent
miss,
47
Connor.
never misses.
Connor, good luck. What do you think?
Speaking of Agent 47, I think I'm gonna go with Hitman.
He's gonna take Hitman.
Oh, I think this was good bait from Stanz.
No,
I think
Atrioc chat
Hitman's
might
up
have
there.
pumped it.
I
Atrioc
think he
chat
pumped
might
it
have
for
pumped it.
real.
I love
I
me
feel
some
like
Hitman.
Atrioc's chat.
All right, let's take a
I
look.
love me some Hitman.
Let's hope he
Hitman.
whiffed.
If this is a hit, you're through.
Oh,
my God.
baby.
Stanz, give the
That was a
last
good
answer
game.
just for the fun of it. What would you have guessed?
What would I guess for the last answer?
Yeah.
Probably like League of Legends.
All right, let's take one more look. Last
I
answer
wouldn't have guessed
would
getting over it, so Connor won with honor.
have been League of Legends. Let's just see for funsies.
Oh,
Wow,
66.
sorry, didn't know it was
Wow.
a reverse
What
word.
a- what a
Come on,
battle.
production. How about you get in my ear?
All right, and because of that, now because the tiebreaker actually stands and Connor are going to move to the finals. Atrioc's eliminated, and just kidding. Tiebreaker won by Connor. This board you can't ignore. Atrioc and Connor. We'll see you two in the final. Stanz, Emiru, we're going to talk to you guys in a little bit, but you guys are out. Thank you though so much for playing. You guys did really well.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This
Yeah.
was a blast.
We'll chat with you in just a bit. Chat, don't go anywhere. See you in like 30 seconds.
This geeky collectible is overrated. As long as I don't see Yu-Gi-Oh cards up there, I'll be fine. That'll be too much for my little heart to take if that goes up.
I was gonna say Yu-Gi-Oh, but I don't know anyone that collects those still.
Oh,
I just finished my entire Yu-Gi-Oh! First Ed collection yesterday.
Okay, well I know you. I'm gonna go with Legos.
Jesus Christ. Much better. That's for nerds.
Let's take a look. Legos. Oh, which ones did you miss, Captain Puffy? Hopefully Yu-Gi-Oh's not here because that would hurt. Number 5.
That would be very painful to see. Okay, very good.
True. Number 4.
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh's still cool, baby. It's the Hivemind Finals for 100 gift subs. A champion will be crowned. Very familiar seeing ConnorEatsPants here, yet again, with an even higher point total. So this is going to be a wacky one.
Yeah.
How you feeling, Atrioc?
I'm feeling good. I always knew it'd be me and Connor from the beginning. Just the two fiercest competitors.
Stanz is still watching, and he's probably so hurt. So is Emiru, who carried you in doubles. Can we at least admit that? All right, you were handing over shit answers.
I was saying stupid shit, and she was like, oh,
she might have moved on if you guys had gone with her answer instead of yours.
Emmy may have been the most honest player here tonight.
Yeah, she did not cheat the system.
Honesty definitely does not help you in the game of Hivemind, though, which is why we are stuck with you two chuckle fucks. So welcome. Now, we are going to start this off with an agree, disagree. Kick it away, Charlie.
I'd rather be able to shrink than be able to grow. Start with you, Atrioc.
All right, so a couple pieces of information helped me make my decision. One was a guy in Charlie's chat who said, the smaller the person, the bigger the cock. And so shrinking seems like it'd be a powerful, as long as your jumps to the same side.
Yeah, but it's like everything would shrink. It's not like shrink.
Not that part doesn't shrink. That's the thing. It's bigger by comparison. I don't know.
Do you think Honey I Shrunk the Kids? They're just lugging around 6
That's what he said.
inches, like...
And then someone in Ludwig's chat said, I want to shrink so it can be the same size as my streamer, Poggies. And so both those things made me think, agree, shrink.
Okay. All right. Connor, what do you think about this?
Well, Atrioc said a lot of factual information there about short people, but as a short person, I feel like I'd have much more application to get a little bit taller. 5'6" is, it's great. I'm proud, but it's sometimes, I feel like disagreeing. So I'm gonna go with disagree.
Ooh.
Charlie, not often do we see people split the decision on agree, disagree. Usually they try to either get all the points or just keep it tied either way moving into the finals.
I like to see the head-to-head.
I was almost about to do it, but whatever. Make it
but you're a man who toots his own horn. Let's see. What did chat say? That's what matters. Chat. Oh, Connor! By 6% takes it.
Close.
Congratulations. You're going to start with 100 bonus points. Not too impactful, though, Big A. Don't worry, because the points are quadrupled in our final round. Gentlemen, it's going to work pretty similarly to the tiebreaker. We're going to ask you guys a question. You're going to have to come up with 3 answers each. We're not going to reveal anything for this, though. Let's take a look at the point breakdown. It works like the first 2 rounds. Number 1 answer will give you the most points, 400 total, 200 for number 6. Let's just jump into it. Remember, you have 2 minutes. Spend all the time you need. Come up with at least 3 answers. If they take one, you might need a 4th. The highest. Number one answer. You can tell your chat to spam whatever you want. And bear in mind, everyone's chat is still playing. So Emiru's chat, you're still playing. Stanz's chat, you're still playing. All that is a fact. Charlie, take it away.
Which sport is the most hype at the Summer Olympics? 2 minutes. Go wild, sports fans. None of them.
Dude, ping pong went dumb hard. Mixed doubles, Japan beat China for the first time ever, securing their first medal in the sport.
I take it back. Ping pong's pretty fucking hype, but I didn't watch it. I did, however, see like in a karate thing. I think it was some lady was trying to get hyped up, so her coach went over to her and just slapped her 5 times.
What?
Yeah,
that's hype.
Yeah, he like tugged on her jacket and then slapped her.
Get her blood flowing. Staniel, what's up, baby?
Sorry, I'm spamming in Atrioc's chat.
What are you spamming?
Remember when we played judo against them and we hit them with the Ippo and the Waza Ari and then they cried?
We played the 2020 Summer Olympics game. Absolute garbage. Have you tried playing it, Charlie?
Well,
no, I would never even attempt that.
So bad, but they have judo and I played it and I realized how little I know about judo. It is a very weird sport. But yeah, you're trying to get him to spam judo. So you're rooting for Big A, I'm sensing.
I will be happy for either of them to win.
Nice.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
If I don't win, it doesn't matter.
You lost a tight tiebreaker.
Yeah, it feels bad. I wouldn't have won because getting over it, I was not there. I was on that
Yeah.
Jump King shit.
Yeah, it's a bit of an OG.
Sorry, I'm just reviewing my
but it's
notes really quick. I was on that Jump King
brand
shit
name.
just to make sure you guys know.
Well, look, I think you did a great job, and to be honest, it's been a great day for you. I saw your stream this morning. You had your own game show.
Oh, did you? I didn't want to say that on this show, but yeah, Task Manager
you can
was
say
fucking
it.
sick.
Yeah,
I was so happy.
Please.
I'm thinking about competing in it next week.
Actually want to? I was thinking about asking you to do like a guest shot or even a guest
I don't know
judge.
how I would make you laugh. It's too much
Well, I wanted
pressure.
you to judge the laughing because then you come on and if
I'd be
you
down.
laugh too, there's like a bonus point.
Yeah, get
Next
me in.
Wednesday. Let's do it.
I'm 100% down, baby. All right,
Hell
Stanzy,
yeah.
we'll talk to you at the end. Appreciate you coming on
Sounds
as
good.
always. You ever see a Taskmaster, Charlie? Taskmaster?
Yeah,
the British
it's
show?
a classic.
He basically
Classic.
made his own called Task Manager, but it's with just the Twitch chat, so they can submit like Google form with like insane tasks.
Nice. That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. Gentlemen, Big A, Connor, welcome to the finals. Connor, you have a bit of an advantage. Atrioc, you're going to go first on the first question, which is back to being an advantage because number one gets you the most points. Question, I'll remind you which sport is the most hype at the Summer Olympics. Give me one of your answers right now.
This is a tough one. There's a lot of good ones.
Steeplechase?
If I search my soul and think the one I thought was most hype, I'm gonna go with ping pong, table tennis.
That's what Ludwig was talking about as well.
Mixed
It was
doubles,
hype this
Japan's
year.
first
It was
win ever.
hype this-
Getting
yeah, exactly.
gold over China.
Lost. Yeah.
That's the storyline
That's a
I'm
big
thinking
deal.
about. Yeah. Connor, what about you?
I'm gonna go with gymnastics.
Gymnastics are hype. Probably the most watch event in America.
Yeah.
All right, we got ping pong for Big A, gymnastics for Connor. Back to you, Big A.
All right, so I want to say swimming. Can I say swimming?
You can say swimming. Yeah. Are you
Why,
trying to
why
say
would you think for a second that you
differentiating
I don't know if
events?
it's like butterfly stroke or whatever. Does that have to be like a specific?
No.
Swimming. Okay, yeah. Swimming's what I think.
swimming? Good answer there, Connor.
Phelps era, you know?
Who's their new like swimming superstar? Bobby Fink. Man, looks like an actual JoJo's character. He's absolutely massive.
Katie Ledecky.
I'm gonna go with
Chad.
skateboarding.
Ooh, curveball. I wouldn't have thought of that. But I will say, for Zoomers especially, everyone is talking about skateboarding. Atrioc, final answer.
Okay. There's a couple in between, but I'm gonna go with track. And if I have to specify, I'll say 100-meter dash, but I think it's just track.
Sure. Okay. Track. Thinking about Usain Bolt. You went for some of the classics there, Connor. You went out of the box for your second one. What's your final guess here?
I go with volleyball.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think you guys might have gone 6 for 6.
Yeah, I think I
I
can't
would
think of
think
anything
some-
else.
Some nasty ones.
I don't
What do you expect
know.
from two great competitors in their
What it
prime?
is.
You guys are making your way towards perhaps the highest point total of all time on Hivemind. Maybe you'll make the leaderboard. Now, the way it's going to work, you're going to see right now of the 6 boxes above me, some will highlight pink. That means that's how many of the 6 you've guessed you guys collectively got right. Doesn't mean who got it, just means that it's going to be there.
6 for 6.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Let's go, Connor. Let's
Okay.
fucking go.
That's what I like to see.
6 for 6 means a couple of things. 1, it means the agree or disagree really matter. 2, placing matters a lot. We're going to go reverse order. It's 200 points for number 6, 400 points for number 1. Oh, this is
If I
spicy.
lose because I made 100 points on a short joke for Ludwig that no one even laughed at, I'm going to be pissed.
And they don't shrink their penis. So were you complimenting me there?
No, it was, no.
Charlie, take it away.
Number 6. Let's take a peek. I think this will probably be like skateboarding or track, maybe. Yep. Okay. There we go.
12 years ago, that's number 1.
Yeah,
Usain
but-
era's over.
Usain era's over, and Jamaica just crushes, and there's no
I mean,
competition.
the Michael Phelps era is over too, Atrioc. I'm not sure about swimming.
Yeah, but he
You got
We'll
Katie
see.
Ledecky.
yeah.
Bobby Fink.
Bobby
Sexist.
Fink, the JoJo's character. Let's take a look at number 5. Gotta hope it's purple and not orange. That's a
gymnastics
shock.
is deep.
I thought gymnastics would be higher.
NBC pumps gymnastics
I
content.
thought that was number 2, honestly.
Yeah. I guess without Simone Biles, it's different.
True.
Isn't she competing like in the next one or something?
She
Like,
only
the next
competed
event?
in uneven bars, I think. In one contest, she ended up getting bronze, which is what she did in Rio as well. But she's only competed in one event.
Gotcha.
Maybe it was beam, something like that. Either way, number 4.
Oh,
Okay.
this is very good for Atrioc.
Yeah, I gotta believe ping pong's high up. It would be brutal, Connor, if you got 3, 4, and 5, and Atrioc got 1 and 2.
I'd take that, honestly. I'd feel pretty good going into the next round even with that.
That's confidence
There's
I can
another round?
appreciate. There is another round.
Yeah,
Because
I
you
get
got to go first
next
this
round.
time. Connor will get to go first on the next one.
Okay, all right.
Let's take a look. Number 3. Oh.
Oh my God. So skateboarding was top 2.
Skateboarding's top 2. All right.
Man, that's crazy.
Would you have guessed skateboarding if he had left it for his third answer?
I thought it was 6 or nothing.
All right.
It was kind of a
It's a niche one. It's the first Olympics it's ever been at.
yeah, and it wasn't that great this year. It was all right.
It aired the first day, and then the clip of the guy winning is pathetic. Like, the actual contest was cool, but the clip he grinds and then pops off. And then,
Yeah, I was pretty underwhelmed. They had that cool crash though, where the guy like went ass first into the rail though.
Yeah, that
I
is
saw
true.
that on
Where he
Twitter
just gets
a
his nuts cream pied.
Yep.
Yep.
I don't know if that's the word they use
Well,
for
it's
that.
don't know
skating
if he got his
terminology.
nuts
I watched a
cream
lot
pie.
of Ryan Sheckler
Yeah,
growing
you're a
up.
regular Tony Hawk.
Number 2. Orange or purple. Let's take a look. It's either ping pong or skateboarding.
All right, that means
Okay.
ping pong number 1, very big.
Number 1 answer is going to be ping pong, guaranteed. In where the points fall is
It's almost dead even though, right? Like,
almost dead even.
Yeah.
You actually made a bit of a comeback off the agree or disagree. It's a 60-point lead for Connor now instead of 100 points, which is what he came in with. Pretty
Okay,
shocked by how
hold.
these turned out. Now, question 2, we won't have an agree or disagree, so this is the point total you'll go in with, and you'll just walk out with whatever you get. Gentlemen, you got
Okay.
one more question and one more break to go, and then there's a winner. You got to crown it.
Godspeed.
But whoever gets this next one will be our Hivemind champion. And we'll see you again in just a few weeks.
Lego or Yu-Gi-Oh versus Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a powerhouse. This is gonna be a tough one.
It's very powerful.
The number 1 answer, Fundy, Bad Boy Halo. Congrats to the Bad Boy Halo. It was Spider-Man 3 for 3. What a finale.
Wait, what is he doing? Oh, did he sag? Is he resetting?
It was a nail biter last week. Yeah, got wild.
I think this one's going to be
one.
way closer, though, Charlie. They're within 60 points right now.
Yeah. And knocking on the door of history, Connor, I think with that, is going to put himself just behind his previous total with a whole round to go.
Wait, so I'm about to cross 5K total?
I don't know if we'll include the tiebreaker points. It depends.
Oh, well, actually, even if they did, it wouldn't be 5K yet.
Yeah.
My math
Include them
sucks.
for the guys, for the boys. Let's get this score
Include
up
them
there.
for the boys.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the finale. Welcome to the final question of Hivemind. Winner will get 100 gifted subs and move on to our season championship to compete against other winners. How much money is that one?
It's too much. I'm not allowed to say.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You guys are as neck and neck as it gets. 60 points separates you. I think I just looked. Literally 60 viewers separates you. You're both sitting at the. It's like
Holy
as
moly.
even in every metric possible. Let's just jump into it, Charlie. Last question.
This comes from AC130. What is the most important piece of technology in today's world?
2 minutes, 3
2
minutes.
Yep.
Oh gosh! Shout out to Han Huts, by the way, for being our stand-in today. Appreciate that. And God, we're gonna talk to Emiru in a second. This is a tough question. Atrioc is
There's
passionate.
so many. There's so many things you could put here.
Yeah, I think. Ooh, Emiru, what's up?
Hey guys, what's up?
Not
Welcome
much.
back.
How
Thank
how'd you
you.
feel about your performance today?
A little disappointing, but I feel like it was pretty close. The agree-disagree questions really screwed me over more than I thought.
Yeah, because you were pretty much like a couple 100 points behind.
Yeah, pretty much the entire time.
You also got so screwed in doubles.
Yeah, you had a bad teammate.
If you had
Atrioc's
just
big
listened to
dumb.
you, you would have like 150 more easy.
Well, I wasn't completely sure, so I was like, well, I'll just let him go with what he wants to say.
Yeah.
I'll just let this big oaf say some stupid shit. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I mean, then it's not my
let him say
fault. And now you guys
stupid
are like, oh, poor you, it's not your fault. I'm like, yeah, it's not my fault.
Now, big question. We always ask our contestants this. What streams you got going on this week? Anything cool?
I'm actually out of town, but I mean, I'm always playing League, React stuff, you know? Just...
Why do you
You
do
know?
it to yourself, Emiru? Why?
League.
Why do you
Oh,
do it to
boy.
yourself?
I just can't stop. I'm just trapped, held hostage. I can't, I don't know what
think
else
we
to do
are
with my
close
life.
to coming back to the era of doing some 10-man in-houses again. Because everyone's trying to do like more collaborative games.
Mhm.
And it's always
Yeah, I
League
did
of Legends
with,
that comes up.
With Miz a bit, it was fun because I was the only person
Yeah.
who knew how to play the game, so I just looked amazing.
They're super fun. I actually have a blast playing, and then I look over, and my view count is a quarter of what it was before. But Emiru, we're gonna be back in a little bit and say goodbyes. But thanks for chatting.
All right.
Contestants, welcome to the finale. We're going to take a little bit of time to tabulate the results, but because Atrioc went first last time, Connor, you're going to go first this time, which is a
make
double
big read
advantage.
here.
You're going to make a big read.
I'm gonna make a big read.
What's the read?
I've studied the game. I've seen how the game's gone tonight.
Okay.
I've seen what we've picked
Yeah.
and what chats have picked.
Right.
I'm a big fan of this brand, so I'm gonna go with the 3090. Just a great.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Atrioc, when you were doing
This is why he's the best.
fist motions going, yeah, yeah, were you perhaps saying 3090, 3090?
That was well played.
It's a great piece of technology.
But you know why it's a win for me? Because I'm going to take this clip and we're going to put it in an ad for free. Connor, you just signed up for a free
I
ad.
love the RTX 3090.
So either way, it's a win. Well said, sir. Holy moly. Okay. For me, I'm going to go with
3080?
smartphones. Smartphones.
Okay. Yeah, smartphones. That makes
Smartphones.
sense. 3080, 3070, 2080 Ti.
Connor, let's go back and forth all the way down.
Smartphones.
product
All
stack.
right. Yeah, that's probably a real answer. If I can say that.
I'm
Connor?
gonna go with computer.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
A computer. Makes a lot of sense. We wouldn't be here without one. Big A.
My chat wants me to steal your Tekken 7 as a counter, but I don't think it'll work. I don't think you guys spam Tekken 7. And so I think I'm gonna go with the internet. I'm gonna go with the internet. It's gotta be the internet.
Internet
if it's
is
Tekken
pretty
7,
goated.
I'm gonna go down.
What will be curious is, Connor, for your third, are you gonna pick Tekken?
I'm gonna go with Cars.
Which one? 2 or 3? Or the original?
Good one.
All right, Cars. Thanks for the laugh, Charlie. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was very clever, Ludwig.
Big A.
Okay, now we're down to the big two.
Gonna be close.
It's between Moby Huge and Bidet yet again, as it always is in life.
It is. It always comes down to these
It always
two.
comes down to
And
those
they're
two.
oddly related.
Oh, is it Moby Huge or is it a Bidet?
You can only pick one.
I'm gonna go with the Moby Huge.
He's doing it. He's threading Moby Huge. Let's go.
I hope it saves me. Moby Huge.
That
I don't even know. I didn't see
is
that one.
a do or die play.
Oh
The
my
Moby
god.
Huge Gambit.
You know
That's a
how it
make or
works.
break.
You guys are going to see the 6 bubbles. They're going to highlight pink. That means that's on the board. One of you guys got it right. You were 6 for 6 last time. Let's see.
If it's 5, I'm gonna be so sad. Oh, Moby Huge did not make it.
This means
Well, we don't know that
two
yet. It
misses.
could be number one. It could be number one.
It could
I
be
hope
the
it
internet
is.
that's not there.
I
This
hope
either
it
means
is,
that one
Charlie.
of you guys went 3 for 3 and then the other person got 1, or you each went 2 for 2. Honestly, I think the latter is more likely. Let's quickly just pull up what you guys missed. Number 5 and number 6. You guys could have guessed a day or Tekken 7.
Oh no!
Oh,
I didn't even
Jesus.
tell them to
It
vote
was
Tekken.
Tekken
That wa-
7.
I never said to vote Tekken.
That's crazy because you said both of those things out loud, Atrioc.
I did. I said maybe that means Moby Huge is 4.
That is what it means.
This
If
would have
Moby Huge is on here, I'm a
almost
genius.
assuredly sealed you the game if you had guessed them, but look, there's still a chance to win. You have a little bit of catching up to do, so you'll need the number 1 answer.
I like Atrioc's chances here, honestly. Like I
For
didn't realize that it would be
Atrioc to
counted.
win, the number 4 answer will likely need to be purple. Let's take a look. Number 4, what is it?
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
phenomenal start. That's a
Okay.
phenomenal start. Okay.
Okay. You know
Let's
what,
take a
though? I
look.
think 3090 is number 1, man. I told him to spam. I said, I put it all on the line, brothers.
I thought you would do that, yeah.
I said spam 3090 like my job depends on it.
Let's see.
Okay. Number 3.
Number 3.
This is where Moby Huge probably is hiding, I think.
Yeah, this is the Moby Huge, Charlie, for sure. Okay.
All right,
No, Moby Huge is the top 2. It's always been a top 2 Moby Huge.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, it's big. It's
When
essential.
you hear most important piece of technology, the first thing you think of is the Moby Huge.
Yeah. It might be Moby and Huge as 1 and 2.
Oh, true. That might be the problem here.
This is
We
do or
might not
die.
even see 39.
This is do or die right now. If this number 2 answer is orange, I believe you're mathematically out unless Moby Huge is number 1. Let's take a look. The second answer. Second most important piece of tech is
Wait, don't count out Moby Huge yet, Leslie.
we can't count out Moby
Moby
Huge.
Huge is up there.
We gotta
They
flip it up
spammed too
regardless.
hard. I got
the number
flipped on.
1 answer. The most important piece of tech in today's world is
Say it out loud. Say it in a full sentence. A full sentence, Ludwig.
Moby Huge.
the RTX 3090. Congratulations,
RTX
Connor.
NVIDIA RTX 3090 just won me 400
The
points
NVIDIA
on
GeForce
Hivemind.
Atrioc, you
3090.
threw! Bidet would have clutched it for you. Oh,
Yeah, you
God.
won with Bidet.
It's a good game.
Congratulations.
That was a good game.
Connor,
That was
admittedly, you had the most pressure because you have performed before, so losing to some newbies would be a little bit tough, but they put you to the test. This might have been your closest round ever.
It was definitely similar to the round versus Hassan in the championship. It was just as stressful being in the tiebreaker.
How did you feel?
I felt stressed. The reverse round is not easy. I tried to figure out strategies to like make that happen. Like I said, like only subs vote this and see how that would do. And
Yeah.
It was a little rocky. So you kind of just have to wing it.
Yeah.
100 gifted bomb already dropped in your chat. Congratulations on first place, and we're gonna get to see you
Thanks for the sub.
once again in the finale. and we'll see how you do this time.
Too, that Stanz did great, and I'm surprised I won the tiebreaker. Honestly, I did not think that Doom would be second to last. I thought that was easily first or second.
I think with this game call with round 3, so many people tell their chat to spam something that all the good answers end up being the best answers possible.
Yeah,
it's because like we have stupid ass answers like Wii U at the top that it's
Yeah, I was like, what? How did that happen?
Well, arguable. Let's bring in the rest of our contestants. Let's say goodbyes to one of the best Hivemind shows I've ever been a part of.
I agree. This was definitely one of the best.
All right, let's go bottom to top.
I say that every time I'm here.
Emiru, thank you so much for coming on. Any final shout-outs?
No, I had a good time. Thank you.
That's good. I'm glad you had a good time. Thanks for coming on. And sorry, one final apology on behalf of Atrioc for screwing you over.
We were a great team.
Yeah,
we were a
I
great
got a
team.
bidet. I forgot about that until
You
just now.
could have got a
Said he'd get
bidet.
me
That's
a
true.
bidet.
I'll still get you a
do
bidet.
I get a bidet?
I'll still get you a bidet. Connor, I got you a bidet.
Damn,
Oh, you got Schlatt a bidet. That's
Well,
not
that's
had to
true.
work for
You
this
did
bidet.
live together once upon a time. I'll get you a bidet too. I'll get all of you a bidet. All right. I guess I'll be the
Oh my god.
bidet guy.
That's a win.
Well, not you. We'll get you a Moby Huge, Atrioc.
I'll set you up with one of
Hook
those.
me up.
Stanzy, congratulations on good performance. What you got going on this week? Please shout out.
Well, I tied the winner. That's got to be worth something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Connor, for old time's sake.
Hey,
Hey.
Hey, dynamic duo.
It's like
There,
losing
a
to
little
Mango
closer.
in
Camera.
pools, and then he wins the event.
So true, so true.
I'm not usually on
no, this is
camera. I have to figure it out.
Thank you guys. This is fun. I love this. I gave it my all.
Well, shout out quickly your show. You got Task Manager. What day is it happening?
It's happening next Wednesday. The tasks are on my Twitter, twitter.com/NathanStans. You do the tasks, you record yourself, you submit them, and we have a good time watching them on stream. Next Wednesday, 11 a.m. PST.
Sheesh. Yeah, it was super dope today, and looking forward to the next one. Big A, what you got for us?
What's good? My dog Linkus is taking my world record in Hitman, so I'm gonna hunt that down on Saturday. Check that out if you want to see
Linkus
our
is
endless battle.
Actually, you owe him so much because he's a content farm for you because he keeps taking back the record.
Yeah, every time I beat it, I get a new video. I told him. So yeah, keep
if
it
he
coming,
didn't
baby.
take back the record, you couldn't play it anymore because what are you gonna do? Prove your time?
That's why I trained him. That's why I trained him up.
Connor,
Check it out.
our champion. What you got going on this week?
Well, I'm always streaming on ConnorEatsPants on Twitch, YouTube, ConnorEatsPants daily or live, and then my daily channel. I got an event coming up sometime soon, the Connor Esports Olympic Invitational. Streamers are going to compete in something better than the Olympics and DMCA free, so they can stream it. So it should be fun. If it works, there's a lot of logistics to figure out, but we'll see.
You'll figure it out. Connor Esports is probably the most wealthy esports org I can think of.
They're big. Yeah. They're doing well for themselves.
And it's getting close to the OTK viewership I was seeing they had.
Imagine Connor ends up suing XQC.
You should make a DMCA. You should take down all the big streamers so it's just Connor supremacy. Gentlemen and Emiru, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate it, and hope you guys had a good time, and see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Adios.
Big man.
What a day, huh? What a day. Our first tiebreaker, too.
That was hype. We didn't even know. You should have heard production chat. They were losing their minds.
Oh my god, yeah, it was a full-on meltdown. We had no idea. Like, we played it off very well. We seemed to, keep this ship running beautifully, but we didn't know what was happening with that. We've never done it before.
No. It was like the Titanic. We were like, everything's good. But no. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad up until it was too late, but we got through it, and it was a fun show. Couple shout-outs. I got to do this. Join us weekly this Thursday, 11 a.m., with hosts Trisha Hirschberger and Snowlit and special guest Fintropolis, Back for Blood, Grandmaster Maurice Ashley, and Twitch partner Amethyst. Also Thursday, Twitch Rivals teams up with one of the coolest orgs in Minecraft, Hermitcraft, for a special event featuring 24 of the most entertaining creators in the world. Check out Twitch Rivals Hermit Raiders with Hermitcraft Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Twitch Rivals. Maurice Ashley is super dope. So definitely check that one out. And also join our Discord, discord.hivemindshow.tv. We'll be back next week at August 11th at 6 p.m. And I think it's a special show. I don't know if I'm allowed to leak this. I'm sure I am. It's a special show. I think me and Charlie might be competing for the first time ever.
Is that next week?
I believe so. I believe the August 11th show, me and Charlie are going to be competing for a charity event. Just kidding. That's on the 18th. Never mind. That's not true. But I did leak it, so that will be happening August 18th. We were close.
That's how we do it, baby.
All right, Charlie, close us out.
Yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.